What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another installment here of Honest and Uneducated, the show where we talk about anything from movies, movie news, video games. Actually got a lot of video game news coming up, so I'm pretty excited to talk about that. We got just all sorts of fun stuff like that we talk about. But anyways, we're going to do a review of Wandavision. We're going to have a little bit of spoilers come in there. We're going to keep that for the end of the show, so don't worry about that if you haven't seen it yet. So you could always just kind of tune that one out if you haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure most of you have by the time this came out. And then tons of video game news, tons of Marvel news. Normally, for the last couple of weeks, it's been a lot of DC news and stuff. DC's been coming out with a ton of new announcements for like Snyder Cut, what their new slate's going to be, all this kind of stuff. But now, it seems like Marvel's kind of jumping in on that stuff. So to help me break all this stuff down, we've got none other than Rik Metz himself here. How you doing today, Rik?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You got a little something that came your way here recently?
Yeah, I finally got it.
There it is.
Pretty stoked on it.
How you liking it thus far?
It's definitely no Profi NeoPixel saber, but that's cool. I like it. It's got like smooth swing and all that stuff, and some cool sounds. So.
It may not be a proxy NeoPixel, but it's a fraction of the cost of a Profi NeoPixel.
Well, like you mentioned, it's miles beyond like a Force Effects lightsaber.
Oh yeah,
I think at least.
And still again cheaper than that.
Yeah, I mean you can't beat it for the price.
Yeah, it's like half the cost of one of those. So.
Oh yeah,
and anything too, it's better. As far as the hilt design goes, it's better constructed too.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I got like the leather wrap on there, the LED button. It's pretty sick.
It's pretty good for the price. Yeah, definitely not bad at all. We also got John Knight here. How you doing today, John?
This is my lightsaber.
This is the baby one, right? I see you got the purple blade on it and everything.
Yeah, the purple blade, yeah. No, I was doing good up until I realized I'm the only one without a cool lightsaber, so I'll have to work on that. But other than that, things are good. We got WandaVision, we got the MCU back in our lives. We're on that hiatus from Mandalorian, but that's okay. Disney came in hot and filled that void with some MCU goodness, so I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean Disney. This is what I wanted Disney to do a year ago when Disney Plus launched. After actually have something for us to watch after Mando season 1.
Yeah, that was just the only thing.
Yeah, there was nothing after Mando season 1. Even the stuff they did add afterward was like almost a year later. They finally put Hamilton on there, and that was like the first premium content they had post Mandalorian. Yeah. Everything else was just kind of like, wasn't really anything I consider premium content. By premium content, I'm saying things that would make you sign up for the service. You know what I mean? That's Mandalorian, that's MCU. John, you're frozen again already. Starting off good here. You're frozen on. It's always a good face. Dude.
It is.
It's always a good
very
face.
Now
I'm
whoa. That got crazy.
But yeah, I'm glad that hopefully now, especially with Disney announcing all them like 50 Star Wars shows or whatever, and we got even more Marvel shows announced now, that every time one of these things end, we're hopefully gonna be in a rhythm to where we wait a couple weeks and the next one begins, and we just kind of keep on going.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be exciting. So.
You're saying about Disney not having a lot of premium content to drive new viewers or new subscriptions after that first year. Just to play devil's advocate, I actually, in a way, appreciated it because it gave me a year to dive into the archives. I mean, at the rate things are going to start coming out, I mean, I'm never going to have time to go back and watch all that other stuff that I enjoy that their platform has. Stuff like the old X-Men animated show, the Spider-Man is Amazing Friends show, things like that. I watched quite a bit of that first year of Disney Plus, and so now that all the new stuff's coming out, I don't know they'll ever have a chance to go back and catch that.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention, I mean, no one can deny that they have an incredible library to begin with.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So I mean,
all the Star Wars movies and shows, and the
MCU stuff, and then all the classic Disney stuff. I mean, it's just they're in a very good spot for because I mean, even though with the lack of new content coming out, didn't seem to hurt them from picking up the new subscribers.
No,
I mean we've talked about before how many they have, and I mean they're doing pretty good. Like they're still not to Netflix levels, but they're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So
I really, we'll never know, but I really wish somebody would leak like a report of what they anticipated their subscriber count would be if they're hitting their internal numbers. I'm really curious what their internal numbers they were looking to get were.
Well,
Yeah.
supposedly they've exceeded what they projected, but you
Sure,
never know.
but that's I feel like that's PR speak. You're never going to be like, yeah, we're just not doing good.
Yeah,
Our service
it's not.
If you're HBO, you're saying that. Like,
well,
I mean, the writing's kind of on the wall for that one, and they're
for
kind of
now.
even though they're maybe if they're not
they were
willingly
hyping up their
saying it-
Wonder Woman numbers.
Well, that's the thing. Their actions are showing that they're hurting. You know what I mean? We're gonna dump all our movies, or it's all coming to HBO. Like
They haven't. Yeah, that's true. They haven't done what would have helped most, which I think is a price cut. I mean, even $5, they'd be more than Disney. But I mean, I think honestly, the name and then the price point. I mean, they were almost $10 more than Disney. It was $8, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's $10 more than Disney.
It's the name, man. The name was the biggest. I think that's the big because HBO's always been that price, and I think the fact that HBO has always been that price, and this service was still called HBO. Yeah. That's the problem because HBO is worth that price. They've been that price for years. Like so,
sure, but you also have to. They're also entering the market with a price point that was long established by Netflix. People associate streaming with Netflix, and Netflix's price point was what? It's now what, $12, $13?
Depending on what plan you have. The 4K one with like multiple devices is like the same price as HBO.
Okay. Well, I feel like, they were right. Netflix was at 10 for a long, long time, and that's they've slowly bumped it up a little bit, but I think that 10 ballpark is right what people expect. So asking him to pay 15 off the bat or 60, is it $15.99? I can't even remember what it is, but anyway, I agree. The name was terrible, but I also think that when people looked at their options for streaming services, well, Disney has a new one too, don't they? How much is theirs? Well, $7 versus 16. Okay, I'll do the cheaper one.
Oh yeah.
I'm just,
and it's better content.
That's debatable.
Yeah,
that's debatable. Warner Brothers has an incredible library as well, and HBO itself has an incredible library. You get all the HBO shows, all the Warner shows, all the DC shows. You got Looney Tunes. You got Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is on HBO Max, dude.
Looney Tunes. I'm sold,
dude. HBO is arguably better than Disney Plus. They should not be. I mean, honestly, if I had to take one or the other, I'd probably go with HBO. There's more consistently good stuff on HBO. And then with that library, all the DC stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Doom Patrol, one of the best shows on TV right now. They got it. Hopefully Titan Season 3 is good, but it's the name, though, dude. That's the biggest problem with their thing, though. 100% the name. And we just talk about this all the time, but it's like they came out and they already had HBO proper, HBO Go, HBO Now, and now here's HBO Max. They're all the same price. They really didn't do any marketing to really emphasize what the hell the difference was.
Yeah.
Again, the article we covered not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, showed that I think it was over 50% of HBO Max users haven't even activated their HBO Max accounts yet. Because you get it, if you had HBO Now or Go, all you have to do is download HBO Max and sign in.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's over 50% of them haven't even done it because they don't even know. It's too confusing. They literally don't know that. And the marketing was just so easy for Warner Brothers just to come out with Warner Plus and be like, all the DC content, this amazing Warner Brothers library, and HBO, all under one roof. You know what I mean? It's easy. It's just easy. They messed it all up. Anyways, let's actually get into these topics here. So we always got to shill HBO in some way. We don't even have anything. We might have something to talk about HBO wise, but normally like I said, DC and HBO have been in the news a lot lately, but not this week. But we still had to get them in here at some point.
Yeah.
There we go.
Sponsor us.
Yeah. Right, yeah. We'll just take a free HBO Max subscription. Per person.
That would be fair.
You know what I mean? Or yeah, honestly, better idea. Like you said, sponsor us. We can do giveaways. You give us the free accounts to give to other people. Because I already got it. So you do that, HBO.
More
do that.
subs.
Yeah, so let's get into this first topic, though. And the first one came of really no surprise to me. The only real surprise with it, in my opinion, was just how soon it was. And that's the Chris Evans stuff. Chris Evans being reportedly in talks to come back as Captain America. I think it was no surprise, again, that this would actually happen at some point. It's just a little bit sooner than I expected it to actually be. Just given that we just had Endgame, I figured, I don't know. I don't really know when I expected him to come back. Like I've said from the start, RDJ and Chris Evans, they're gonna come back at some point, like in some way. Who knows how? But the MCU's had how many times has Loki died and came back? It was just the writing was on the wall for Cap and Iron Man to come back at some point in time. And but we have news that he is supposedly going to be coming back. So there's no news as far as like the when and the wheres and the whys. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think yourself? Like his return would be in? You know,
What would he come back as? Yeah, I mean, like obviously Captain America, but for what?
that's what I'm saying. What do you think it would be?
Some
Because
sort of TV show or something, I would think. I mean, there's no major movies announced that I think would include him or anything like that.
well,
Right?
dude, let me float this out there too before one of you bring it up, because there's been some people saying like, oh, maybe he's gonna come back and be a Skrull in like Secret Invasion. Why the hell would Chris Evans come back to be fake Captain America?
Yeah,
It doesn't like. Why would you do that? Like,
Money.
it doesn't like no. Like, I mean, is it possible? Yeah, anything's possible. But like, he pretty much retired from the role, and like his story ended in a nice way in Endgame. You're gonna come back just to be fake Captain America in a little TV show?
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't think that really. I don't know. I wouldn't think that's the only reason.
Honestly, that's the only way I could see him coming back to play it.
Yeah.
Because that was my thought. That was my thought. Like he could come back, and so here's my thinking behind that. Like they ended his run. So obviously, with comic books, you've got the nobody stays dead trope that holds true for every character.
Mhm.
But the instant you do that with Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans, and you bring back one of their characters, even though Chris Evans technically isn't dead, he's just living his life in an alternate timeline or in the past, depending on how their timelines work. The instant you bring one of them back, you then put the expectation back in people's heads that they are going to be there to play that role going forward. Like
True.
you couldn't resurrect Robert Downey Jr. and have him like let's say the next, the culmination of the next 10 years of storytelling ends in a big battle, and like Robert Downey Jr. pops up at the end and is like, yo, they saved me somehow, or I found a way to cheat death and I'm back and like I'm here just in time to save the day. Like that's awesome. But if he comes back just to save the day and then dies again, it's like it just cheapens the death, and it's like, so he's not really back. It's just I don't know. I feel like it just doesn't play as well. But if Chris Evans signs to be a Skrull and he comes back and he plays evil Captain America, then it does two things. One is it removes the idea that the actual Captain America is back, that the actual Steve Rogers is like come back from the past, or is going to be involved with the franchise going forward. He could just come back for that limited capacity to play that role. Plus, it gives him a chance to, as an actor. I always hear that not being an actor myself, I don't know, what their motivations are and stuff. But I've always heard actors don't like to be pigeonholed into one role. They like to try different roles and things like that. And this would give him a chance to play a different type of Captain America, a different role than he's ever played before. But at the same time, so anyway, that was my thinking. That's like the only way, because I feel like you bring him back, you're kind of just setting yourself up for failure.
It's a good point. Yeah.
I just don't know. I feel like if he came back as a Skrull, he'd be back in other ways too. I just don't feel like. I mean, I don't know Chris Evans. He might
Yeah.
want that might be a great thing. He might just want to come back and do one quick thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
And maybe doing that would let him be able to, it puts a new spin on a character he's already been for so long, kind of like you were saying. So like maybe that would be enough. One thing I want to add, though, this isn't necessarily related to Captain America, but I guess before I go into this real quick, we should note that uh, Chris Evans tweeted about this and just said news to me.
Shrug emoji.
Yeah, but to be fair, I don't think that actually means anything because this article is initially broken by I think Deadline, who have it was either Deadline or Hollywood Reporter. They have very reputable sources. They don't just post random things.
No, like
They
rumors.
actually, they get multiple confirmations on their stories from their
It's
sources.
fact checked. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they don't just spout out nonsense and rumor stuff. So my guess is he's honestly just saying that to deflect the news because he didn't actually deny it. Like, he didn't say this is not happening or anything like that, which he could still say that and be lying if he said something like that too. But I think this is just probably the kind of thing where, Kevin Feige and Marvel, whatever, Disney, probably didn't want this information to be out there right now.
Mhm.
And that's so he's just kind of saying, like,
Playing off of
"I
that.
don't know any of this." That's the thing. But moving on to my kind of final point here, just because we were talking about the scroll stuff for Secret Invasion and everything, it kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of people have obviously been speculating what they're going to do with Black Panther now that Kevin Feige came out and said that they're not going to be recasting T'Challa, right? So I actually had a thought to where this is something they could do. I don't know if they would, but they could do this without having to make up some new way of, like, I don't know, killing off T'Challa or anything like that because, R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman and everything. I feel like that's just more messy, trying to, like, fit something in the movies to represent what happened. I don't like the idea of having to do that. But a way you could
You're
still
saying trying to explain away his absence in
Yeah,
future movies.
right,
Like, why
yeah.
why isn't he on the screen? Okay.
Yeah. So what I was thinking they could do, though, is how at the end of Infinity War, spoiler alert, he gets dusted. They could say that that actually was what happened, and when the snap happened, he didn't come back, a Skrull did in his
Ooh.
place.
But doesn't that then, like, raise questions about, like, well, why didn't he come back when everybody else that got dusted did? And why?
It would, but I
You
mean,
know.
it's also a comic book movie.
Yeah, everything's explainable.
They're gonna
one way or
have to do
another.
some sort of explain-o-vision to why he's gone now anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kinda where
Yeah.
I'm coming because there's how else are they gonna handle it, you know what I mean? Because at least
Well,
that's,
I'm
like,
assuming
existing.
that T'Challa's going to have passed in between movies somehow. Like,
I don't like that.
and there'll just be some sort of, like, memorial or something that they pass by or have erected to him in Wakanda. Like, it may even open with, his memorial service and like news
Yeah.
clippings over the credits about what happened or something. I could see them doing something
Like in the
brief like
beginning.
that. Yeah, exactly. In the beginning of the movie, like, just brief news clippings, like, I can't even imagine, but some sort of villain attack that he prevents, or some sort of he gave his life defending.
Sacrifice.
Like, it could be something like super, like, mundane too, because they don't want to, like, put the focus on the fact that he's the Chadwick passed. Like, it could be something like he saves, like, a bunch of children from a bus crash or something, but gives his life to do it or something. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of something like a natural
Speculation.
disaster. Or something.
I feel like if
but
they were
you
gonna
don't-
do that, it'd probably just be easier to say, like, he got an illness. It's something that he couldn't fight because it's like not Chad, but T'Challa himself been through a lot, so it'd be kind of hard to say, like, you can go up toe to toe with Thanos and, like, all his minions and stuff, but then
get in a
you
bus
die
crash.
in a bus crash or something. You know what I mean? But kind of
Sure.
like Goku in the Cell Saga, or in the Android Saga rather, he got a heart disease that killed him. Like, this is Goku, so it's kind of hard to have him just die in a fight because it's Goku.
Yeah.
But he can't he can't fight a terminal disease, you know what I mean? So, I mean, they could just do that. Also, with that, it kind of hits close to home because of the whole what happened to Chad, and that's why I don't really like the whole thing of the whole notion of having to kill off T'Challa now, because it's like I just find it messy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Because it's like I don't want to have to. It's
But
like, why would you want to relive it? It's
Sure, but that's what I mean. That's isn't that I'm trying to think of other that's what they did with Paul Walker's character in the Fast and
They
Furious,
did.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
he was killed off camera.
Or no, he wasn't
I'm
killed
trying to
off. I
think.
don't
He
think.
wasn't killed off.
No, he just like left to be with his family.
Yeah, he was CGI'd in, and he rode off into the sunset. At the
Driving
end
Oh,
of the
you're right.
movie.
His brothers played him, didn't
Mhm.
they?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
That's what I
For some reason,
prefer. That's why I just wanted them to recast T'Challa, because it's like now they got to work in this whole thing to where like they got to explain why T'Challa's gone now, and like no matter what it is, it's not going to be something you get to see unless it is something like related to Black Panther trying to do something. Then it could just be someone in the suit.
I thought the guy
But-
from Tenet would have been a good casting. You'd mentioned that, I think.
Yeah, that's what I said, man. John David Washington, go play T'Challa, or have Michael B. Jordan just come in and play T'Challa. Like, who cares that he was Killmonger?
That'd be kind of strange.
everybody.
I feel like.
It doesn't matter. Everybody would be totally on board with it. Like, everybody loves Michael B. Jordan, and it'd be like in honor of Chad. He worked with him, so now he's going to come back and actually be T'Challa now, and like it would work fine. No one would care. Like, I don't know. This was about Chris Evans anyway, so we should probably move on. This is a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But anyways, all right, guys. What do you think about Chris Evans and our T'Challa theories here too? Do you think that either one of them? Do you think maybe the Skrull Secret Invasion angle on it is how they're going to go with both Black Panther and Captain America? Do you think it's going to be just Captain America is going to come back and just be a Skrull? Whatever you think, let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next topic here is going to keep us in the world of the MCU, but we're going to shoot over to a new entry in some ways to the MCU. Well, I guess it is, no matter what way you look at it, it's a new entry in the MCU, but one that's been filled with a lot of question marks around, and that's Deadpool. Like, what is Marvel going to be doing with Deadpool now that they, Disney acquired Fox and all that stuff? A lot of question marks were there in regards to, is Deadpool even going to continue? Is Deadpool going to be like still rated R, but in a different kind of separate universe from the MCU and everything? Or are they going to make him PG-13 so that he can, co-mingle within the MCU? No confirmation really had been given on it until now, in some way, with a bit of caveat. Because Kevin Feige had done an interview where he did mention that it will be rated R, and we're working on a script now. Ryan Reynolds is overseeing a script right now. It will not be filming this year. Ryan is very busy, very successful actor. We've got a number of things we've already announced that we now have to make, but it's exciting for it to have begun. Again, a very different type of character in the MCU, and Ryan is a force of nature, which is just awesome to see him bring that character to life. So, I don't know. This is in some ways, to play devil's advocate like John just was a moment ago, this isn't a 100% confirmation, because he could have just been, while he's talking, right? He could have just said, you just say things sometimes and you don't really totally mean the thing you say. Like, he could have just said in passing that, a different type of character in MCU. Like, maybe he just meant Marvel, who knows? Who knows? But I'm going to go on the assumption that this does mean 100% that it's going to be rated R Deadpool in the MCU. That's what I'm going to go with for now until we get confirmation otherwise. I feel like since this article's gone out and the internet kind of exploded about it for a little bit, that if it was not the case, they probably would have made an addendum. Kevin Feige would have been like, oh, I misspoke on that. So I'm going to assume that this totally means that it is for sure, and he wasn't just kind of misspeaking in some ways like that. But anyways, the main thing with this, in my opinion, is I'm happy to hear it. I don't know about you guys, but I've said from day one, when the whole Fox merger happened with Disney and everything, that you have to keep Deadpool rated R, like 100%. Oh, yeah. There's no going back at this point. I don't think anyone would be happy with it. It was one of the most successful R-rated franchises ever, as far as box office and even critical responses and everything. So for them to have to go back and like PG-13ify him, I don't think anybody would really be cool with that. Especially, I don't even think Ryan Reynolds would be cool with that.
Absolutely
to begin with.
Not.
And I think what ended up happening here is like, because Bob Iger himself had said like they didn't know what they were going to do with Deadpool, because like they did confirm they were going to do it, but everyone was kind of under the assumption it would be under like the Fox umbrella and they would carry it on like separately in a separate universe. Because Bob Iger is mainly concerned about not confusing his audience, right? He doesn't want little Timmy to see Deadpool in, an Avengers movie, and then want to go watch a Deadpool movie afterward because they see the trailer for it, and the trailer is obviously, PG-13, so he can see the trailer, and then little Timmy asked his mom to go see that movie because he was just in the Avengers movie,
Well,
and
Timmy's
then
gonna have a lot of questions
I
after
know.
watching that.
I don't think Timmy's mom's gonna be really on board with him learning about like being pegged on National Women's Day and things like that. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
that was Bob Iger's biggest concern, is like, which it makes sense. Now, I always made the argument myself is that like there's like a small fraction of people out there who I think would actually be confused with it. And I mean, again, to play devil's advocate, there were stories about Timmy and his mom going in to see Deadpool and not realizing that it was what it was. And I remember there being like a couple articles about it, like someone took like 6-year-old to go see it. And it's like, okay, at some point, my thing with like that whole situation, and I get Bob Iger's concern and everything, but at some point the fault lies with the person and not with the company. Like,
Yeah.
the company
Sure.
does everything that, like, not to defend big business or anything either. Like, God, not what I'm getting at here. But if everyone is being kosher on their end, they put out all their marketing material, they say rated R, not suitable for children, then they're doing their job. You know what I mean? So when Timmy and his mom go to see it, at that point the fault lies on them if they're if they're unhappy with it. So
Yeah.
and I feel like that's such a small fraction of people out there that again, why would the company want to like lose out on potential income by having Deadpool continue to be Deadpool, the big money R rating making giant that it was, and then have their cake and eat it too with throwing him into some MCU movies. You know what I mean? Because then it's just gonna make Deadpool more popular. It's gonna make the MCU more popular. Everyone's gonna win, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like most people, as far as the audience goes, isn't stupid, and they understand that one's rated R, one's not. That's just, I don't know. So I always thought from day one they should have kept making Deadpool rated R, and then when he wants to, or when they make an Avengers movie or they make a Spider-Man movie, they can have Ryan Reynolds pop up into it, and it'd be fine. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, everyone understands what's going on. And I don't know. What do you guys think? Before I keep rambling on, like, that's pretty much where I'm at with it. I'm glad they're doing
Deadpool
it.
should always be rated R. Like, you can't go back on that. That's what I think makes the movies so fun and entertaining and all that. And I'm
100%.
glad to hear that they're not straying away from, the R rating.
I think even if they wanted to, how long could you be in a room with Ryan Reynolds and not give him what he wants?
No, yeah.
He's too handsome. He's too charming. He's too funny. Like, he's just in there, probably like sitting there in a room with Kevin Feige
Just
and
smiling
just,
at him.
Yeah, just how could you couldn't say no? Like, and he's got enough to back it up too. Like, it's just like, but look how much money we made and all this stuff and blah blah blah. Like, you can't, and no one wants to.
So-
I'll say this, not to interrupt. Nobody wants to see Deadpool without Ryan Reynolds.
God,
It's not going to happen. Like, nobody wants to
he
see it.
is Deadpool.
That's what I'm saying. Like, nobody wants to see it. So go on. Ron.
I think Disney's bigger concern is the brand, the idea of brand. Marketing and stuff is a very, it's such a huge part of any public business's persona these days, and the Disney brand carries with it. I mean, we talked about this when we talked about Disney Plus before, and how they have such a family friendly image, even though they release some movies that are, the MCU movies, which are PG-13, and they have other movies in other areas, the Star Wars films that are PG-13 and stuff. So even though they skew some of their content older, they still are considered family friendly. And so the PR pushback from having a movie in their arena that is clearly not family friendly, that's intended just for kids, and the confusion, I don't even know that it's confusion. I think it's really just the association that comes along with a movie like that, is probably what they were more scared of than anything else. Now, that being said, I'm very curious if what's going to happen is if we're going to see sort of a I can't remember what they called it, but a remake of the Deadpool movies like they did with Fred Savage for Deadpool 2, where
Yeah.
they tone down everything and they get it into that PG-13 wheelhouse. So you're going to have your main Deadpool 3 release, or whatever they end up calling it. That's going to be your full R. They're not going to, handcuff
Water it
Ryan
down.
Reynolds. They're going to let him go out with all out with the comedy and the violence. But then you're going to have a version of it come out that's PG-13. And so when little Timmy wants to see Deadpool, and his parents are like, I can't have him see an R, but a PG-13 is just fine, they're going to be able to show him the PG-13 version, and try and approach it some way like that, just so that they can basically have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
That's kind of my only guess as to how they're going to approach it. Or they're just going to, rely on, like you said, they're going to rely on people to be smart enough to not take little Timmy to the rated R movie. And unfortunately, they're going to have to deal with some blowback, because while it may be a small percentage of the population, those people are still out there who are going to go see it, and they're going to get online, and they're going to whine and moan and complain and cry about Timmy seeing something about somebody being pegged on National Women's Day. And Timmy doesn't have a first clue what that is. Timmy doesn't even, that joke doesn't even matter if Timmy hears that joke. It doesn't mean anything to me.
That's another thing too. Like most of those jokes and like the vulgar material, right over these kids' heads, they don't care.
Exactly.
Like, in all honesty,
the kids probably tune out of all that dialogue stuff anyway. They're just you're just getting those kids from one action scene to the next. They're not taking that in, and now the F-bombs and the S-bombs and all those, that might eventually seep into, especially when the kid hears Deadpool say it and the entire theater cracks up. The kid's gonna go, oh, that word's funny, all right, we're doing that next time. So that I can see, but a lot of, like you're talking, the really, really crude humor and stuff that people get so worked up about, it's like kids don't even know what that means. They don't have the first clue, and they probably, it goes in one ear and out the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they probably. That's true. It's not the kind of thing that they're going to be like, "Hey, mom, what's National Women's Day? What's getting pegged?"
What is pegging?
That happens for 2 seconds, and then they see Deadpool cutting heads off, and then they're back to that.
Like, that was so cool. Hey, mom, remember when Deadpool?
Yeah, like, and that's what it is. So I don't see any. I could totally see them doing that. With the whole like making the PG-13 version just to put it on Disney Plus, because like I imagine these rated R Deadpool movies are going to come out under the Fox banner, like still, because they're not going to put the Disney logo on it.
Disney is family friendly, like that's what they're about. Yeah,
so I still imagine they'll utilize their 20th century banner for Deadpool, and then put it on Hulu when the time comes for the rated R one. Then if they so choose to do the PG-13 version for it, then they could. It just kind of depends on how much work it would be. Because they could always just do the real generic bleep every cuss word and cut out all the blood scenes and just throw it on Disney Plus and just say, here you go. I don't know if they would, because I mean, you got to think, when Deadpool crosses over, he won't be cussing or anything, and he won't be cutting heads off, and they'll be like, that's all going to be in the rated R stuff. But his existence in the MCU doesn't mean like every time they see him, like the little Timmy, it's going to be on National Women's Day. If he pops up in a Spider-Man movie, he'll be PG-13. Like he might
just
be a little bit vulgar.
The comics. I mean, they've been walking that line in the comics since the character was created. There are comics that are intended for mature audiences that he appears in, but then there's also the Avengers comic that he pops up in. He's not dropping his F-bombs in the Avengers comics.
Yeah. Plus, with those ones, he still can, and like in those ones for comedic relief, they could just bleep them out. Yeah, like have it on, because if you do it right, it's funny.
He offers that whole fourth wall breaking, stuff that you can do with him. So it would be really interesting to see how they would utilize him in an Avengers style movie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun. Because you gotta see him with Spider-Man. I think that's probably like number one. He's had a lot of good interactions with Spider-Man in the comics, so that'd be fun. I don't know. It'd be cool. I don't think it's needed, but I imagine, though, I guess the last thing I'm really at about it is they must have. I think this might have something to do with their future plans for X-Men more than anything. Where Kevin Feige was like, we should probably have Deadpool be able to come in here because we're gonna do X-Men eventually, and he's already a pretty popular X-Men character to the public, so we could keep him around. And then he can just cross over into that, because I could totally see them once they start making the X-Men movies. He could be a regular character in there. You never know. Like, so who knows though? We'll just have to see. Because Deadpool really didn't do a whole ton of stuff with like the Avengers and stuff like that. He did a lot of stuff with Spider-Man. He pops up in the big ones, like the big crossover stuff. But I mean, he's an X-Men character when it comes down to it. So
Yeah.
I think it might have something to do with that coming up. So we'll just have to wait and see. But guys, what do you think about that? Are you happy with Deadpool being rated R? Because I think most people, I think it's safe to say that they're happy that Deadpool is going to continue on, as Ryan Reynolds has intended him to continue on. Because let's face it, that franchise, it's not where it is today without Ryan Reynolds. All right, and like I said before, I don't think anybody would be cool with them like recasting Deadpool and making PG-13 movies just so they could put him in the MCU. Like, nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see it. I can't speak for everybody, but I don't want to see that. So whatever you guys think, let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our third topic here is kind of a conglomerate of topics. I'm going to rope these three together because they're all about some of the Disney Plus MCU shows. We had some information come out about She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Secret Invasion. So I'm going to touch on these real quick, and then we'll kind of move from here. So the first one is Kevin Feige revealed the length of She-Hulk, and I don't know if this came out like, I don't know, let me just read the quote. So it's about 6 hours of content, said Feige. Sometimes that'll be 6 episodes, sometimes that'll be 9 episodes in the case of WandaVision. Sometimes that'll be 10 episodes. You basically have 10 half-hour episodes, which is what She-Hulk will be. And the weird thing about that is okay, so sometimes there'll be 9. Okay, I guess I don't know. I guess that makes sense. And I was reading this wrong before, so that's my bad. I thought it was saying in the case of WandaVision for 10 episodes, and I was like, didn't they say it was 9 episodes already? I thought we just had that confirmed, so that makes sense. So we got that, which I mean, I don't know. I kind of just expected that to happen, just given the fact, kind of like he said, just because of WandaVision, I just kind of assumed, their future shows would probably follow suit with that. On top of that, let's go to the Secret Invasion one. Kevin Feige, in the same interview here, spoke about Secret Invasion and mentioned that it's not going to be as big as the Secret Invasion story in the comics, or even remotely close to even being as big as Endgame. So he went on to say, well, there were more characters in Secret Invasion comic series than there were in Endgame. So no, Feige said, it's not that, but it very much is a showcase for Sam Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn, and tapping into the paranoia elements of the Secret Invasion comic series that was great with the twists and the turns that it took. So that's certainly our focus, more than can we cram in more characters than Endgame like publishing did. So again, due to the fact that this was coming out on Disney Plus as opposed to being a feature film, because everyone thought like the next big thing they would do post Endgame would be Secret Invasion. Everyone just kind of assumed, especially once the Skrulls were introduced in Captain Marvel, everyone kind of assumed that that's the way they would go. And I guess they kind of are. But like most things, they are definitely making an adaptation of it, just like Civil War was not like the comic book Civil War, etc. The Infinity Gauntlet was not necessarily what Infinity War and Endgame were. When you look at the comics, I mean, the Death character wasn't even in Infinity War and Endgame, and that's plays a pretty big role in the comics. So, and then our last one, which in some ways might be the most surprising, given the I don't know, the actor attached to it, is that Ethan Hawke is set to join the Moon Knight series as the main villain, which I think is great. But there was literally, when I first heard this, I thought it was funny because it was not too long ago that Ethan Hawke mentioned. Here's his quote here, because he was kind of talking down about the whole superhero movie, comic book movie genre, and his quote from before was, "Now we have the problem that they tell us Logan is a great movie." Hawke said in 2018. Well, it's a great superhero movie. It still involves people in tights and metal coming out of their hands. It's not Bresson. It's not Bergman, but they talk about it like it is. So when I heard that he was coming in, of all people, into an MCU show or any sort of superhero show, kind of surprised me, because the first thing I thought of were his comments about, I mean, a Marvel property disconnect from the MCU in some ways, but he used a Marvel property as an example to kind of like talk down on it in some ways. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of strange. Ethan Hawke's like a great actor though, so like I'm totally cool with him joining the Moon Knight series. No idea who he's gonna be. He doesn't have, but this article even goes on to say that Moon Knight doesn't necessarily have like the biggest, most well-known rogues gallery by any means. So it's kind of up in the air on who he could even be. It could be like a whole newly written character. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. But he's joining Oscar Isaac there in the Moon Knight series. So guys, let me kick it over to you. What do you guys have? You guys have anything you want to like add about anything you're excited for these three kind of Disney Plus show topics that we got here?
I just think it's hilarious that Ethan Hawke, who was in such classics as Assault on Precinct 13 and The Purge and
Right,
Getaway.
yeah.
I'm going through the list here. like the bar that he has set himself doesn't quite meet those other people either. And I think Logan far exceeds anything that he's done. So I don't know. That's that old school, like Ethan Hawke's probably a nice guy. I don't know. But that's that old school Hollywood mentality, just that,
It's like
Scorsese.
Scorsese.
When I was a kid and growing up, like, yeah, well, there's that. But it's just kind of a societal issue where, like, there's a generational gap where people are just like, yeah, comics are for kids. And no matter what you say, it's like, that's the way it is.
Mhm.
And anything that's even remotely associated with it gets just beaten down on because
Yeah, it's
it
a
can't
lesser
possibly
than. Yeah.
yeah just because it happens to be in that, and that's not the case at all. It's a narrow-minded way of thinking. And so and then when you hear it come from people that have done like shows like, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here on Ethan Hawke, and it was probably a dumb thing that he said that he probably regrets considering what he's that he's going to be in. But he is I think he's a fine actor. He's another fairly large name that Warner Brothers, that Disney seems to be pulling in, and I don't know, this wasn't part of it, but Ben Affleck was quoted, I believe, this week as saying like Kevin Feige is the best producer of all time or the best executive of all time when it comes to making movies. So maybe the opportunity to work with Kevin Feige was just too appealing for him. So anyway, I'm glad that they're keeping the quality of their actors fairly high, and I think that I'm really excited for Moon Knight. I think it's going to be a great series.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm excited for the She-Hulk thing. I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see the perspective of like a female Hulk,
Yeah.
on the actual screen and how they do it. And have they had any like major casting for that or anything?
Tatiana Maslany, the girl who was in God, what was that show called? There were like clones of her. What was it, man?
I think I know what you're talking about, but
I don't remember what it was called. Let me see if it quotes it on here.
I think it's kind of hot, the idea of like a female Hulk.
Well, I mean, the cool thing with She-Hulk is that she's not a split personality like Hulk is.
She's just
like
She-Hulk.
she's just her as a Hulk. She's still a lawyer. She
the big green lawyer.
Yeah, she's just a big green lawyer you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, we're on your side.
Orphan Black,
yeah, that was it. Yeah, so she's playing She-Hulk. So, and she's a great actress too. So I mean, she's definitely. I mean, one thing that I don't think anybody, not that anybody just inherently talks crap about Marvel or anything, because I mean, there's not much to really be disappointed about in my opinion. But one thing that they have consistently done has kind of knocked it out of the park with their casting.
Oh yeah,
I don't think anything has been miscast in anything.
Definitely
really.
agree on that.
Yeah, like some characters may not have played as good as some of them, like Dark Elf boy, God, Malekith is his name. I can't remember.
From Thor: The Dark World. Yeah.
Like that, like the Dark Elves may not have been, I don't know, just written well, but the Doctor Who guy they got to play him, I can't remember his name. I love him as an actor. He was in God, I'm drawing a blank on everything right now. He was in that show on HBO with Jason Theroux. God, I forget what it was too. Man, I can't remember.
Was he Doctor Who?
Huh?
You said he was a Doctor Who actor?
Yeah, he was Doctor Who like 2 doctors ago. No, he's not the girl one. He's not David Tennant. He was the one before David Tennant.
Yeah.
not Matt Smith. So
Yeah.
maybe 4 ago. Because Matt Smith, I think, was after this guy, then David Tennant. Or no, dude, I don't watch Doctor Who.
I don't
I just
either.
like all the actors. Like, funnily enough, they're all good actors. And even because even the girl was in a show with the girl who's currently Doctor Who was in a show called Broadchurch with David Tennant, and that show is awesome. If you haven't seen it, it's just like a detective kind of mystery kind of show, but it's amazing, great show. And then, dude, what was that show on HBO with like the thing where they just like people disappeared? Like, you don't remember that? Did you guys watch that? No,
Happening?
not The Happening. Like that was our boy Marky Mark, and
Oh, that was the movie.
Marky
yeah,
Mark, yeah.
yeah,
It was one of the Lost guys.
Justin Theroux and hold on, let me look this up. I gotta look it up.
No, I know what you're talking about too. I think I watched the first episode and never got back to it.
I watched like the first 2 seasons of it, and then I never finished the third one. It was really just one of those shows that I know a lot of people had a very love-hate thing with it, and the only thing I didn't really like about it was like the thing just kind of jumped around a lot. Like season 3 starts, if I'm remembering correctly, and it's just like out of like the story just takes a huge turn, like out of nowhere.
Leftovers.
The Leftovers, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
There we go.
I never watched that.
I liked it for the first. I liked the first 2 seasons of it. Really, like I said, the third season just took like such a different turn. I don't know. I just couldn't get back into it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It was very odd, but love Justin Theroux though. He's a good actor too. But yeah, I'm Rick. What else are you excited about? She-Hulk? You got anything for Secret Invasion?
I don't really know enough about Secret Invasion to be like excited for it. I never like read the comics or anything like that, but I mean, it's weird that, you know, that does have such a big cast in the comics, but they're not doing it that way for the show. But I mean, I guess it really wouldn't make sense to do it that way.
I mean, there's the cast in the comics. There's characters they haven't even introduced in the MCU.
Yeah,
so it
which
makes
that could
sense that
be-
they're not doing it.
Yeah,
but
that would be confusing to some people.
Secret Invasion in the comics was, I mean, anybody that reads comics, they do these. They every year they have a giant crossover where there's like a main book, but it ties into all the books in the entire line. And Secret Invasion was their big crossover one year. So you know, for taking a story of that scale and then saying that they were making it into a TV show, I feel like they're going to be taking elements from it or the theme of it or the idea of it and playing with that, but not. It won't be the big epic, you know, Skrulls versus more MCU heroes that maybe they might build to something like that. They might build towards the next Avengers movie with elements from it. But I don't think it's going to just be, you know, obviously it's not going to be just the straight up Marvel has to now, and there could be elements of it that end up working their way into future shows and movies. Like if they find out if, you know, Fury and I can't remember the Skrull character's name, but if
Ben
if
Mendelsohn, I can't remember his character.
if they find out that there are heroes that have been replaced and there's this element of uneasiness or there's lack of trust among the heroes, that could be an interesting thing to see play out in other characters' movies and stuff that they reference from the show, and then they could all build to something. But yeah, I'm totally on board with it being smaller scale, you know, and just using it to build the universe more.
I think it could absolutely be used to kind of set up what could be a big future one. You know, I mean, because you could introduce the whole concept of Secret Invasion in the Secret Invasion show, but have it just be like, you know, Ben Mendelsohn and Sam Jackson characters. They first discover, like, I don't know, some just random world leader has been replaced by a Skrull, right? And they find that out. Then they start just pulling on that string and they start to see, you know, well, who else has been replaced by a Skrull? And like this, like a mystery kind of unfolds, and then that's kind of just set up now. So like you're saying, like later on down the road, it could start being Avengers characters and X-Men characters, and you know, if they wanted to go back to it, they can. You know, speaking of which, I'm excited now that they got everything back. I mean, we can actually. You think they're gonna have Super Skrull as the villain in Fantastic Four, since Skrulls are already here?
I guess it
Because
could
it'd
make
be
sense.
a new thing they could do.
I feel like if they're doing Fantastic Four, that they're going to do Doom. I mean, I
Dude,
just
they've
don't
had
see.
so many issues with Doom.
Yeah, but they've also
Yeah.
had
Not Marvel
all the
themselves,
Fantastic
but
Four movies.
yeah,
You've already had 3 Fantastic Four movies too, and they're
Every
going
one of
ahead and
them.
bringing them back. I just Fantastic Four and Doom are so. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, it goes
Mr.
hand in hand.
Fantastic, Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom are they're intrinsically linked there. So I just can't see them doing the movie without having Doom being the villain. But I could be wrong. Maybe they'll keep him off the board for a little bit. Maybe they will. That would be actually, now that I'm thinking, now that you mentioned it, that would be a cool way to do it. You could tie Super Scroll into it. You could bring him into the universe, especially
Doom
building
could
out
still be
Secret
in it.
Invasion. Well, but you can also
But not
keep
the
Doom
main
off the
guy.
table. Think of the anticipation you would be building to.
Oh yeah,
the
what if
next
that's the
Fantastic
post-credit
Four
scene? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because one could argue too, Doctor Doom himself is by himself is an Avengers level threat.
He could be a cosmic,
So like
definitely.
he
He could be the
definitely
next
villain.
Thanos.
Yeah, like 100%. Like especially if
Yeah.
they actually stick to the whole like part witch power. You know what I mean? The supernatural part of him and the
Yeah.
Iron Man suit part of him. Essentially, like
It's a pretty deadly combination. I mean,
dude, yeah, he's not no one to be trifled with. Like
trifled, yeah.
You wouldn't know that based on his other cinematic appearances, but
No.
like in
the comics,
in the
though.
actual comics, he's a big deal, and it'd be
Kind of
really
a big
cool
deal,
for
yeah.
him to be in it and like teased or something at the end. Or I just feel like since the scrolls are existing right now, that it'd be a kind of easy way for them to have a fresh take on the Fantastic Four by not doing Doom and Silver Surfer and like because they're obviously going to do that at some point, but like it might be good for them to kind of like here's something you kind of know with the scrolls, and here's our Fantastic Four. Like here you go.
Secret Invasion could actually lead to Secret War.
Yeah,
which obviously has a couple of different series in Marvel history and things to draw on from that. So I kind of wonder. I mean, they had a success with Infinity War. So if they did Secret War, you would kind of call back to a previously successful movie, at least in the minds of the general audience. So I wonder if maybe Secret Invasion doesn't set up something like that.
dude, there's honestly so much cool stuff they could do now. Just with I don't know why I was just thinking about this, but because I was thinking about Fantastic Four and then Super Skrull and Secret Wars, and then my mind went to Galactus, like obviously at some point, and then how cool would it be if they actually did like a World War Hulk or something?
Yeah.
Like, where he's like, oh, that would just be cool, man. We already got like Gladiator Hulk, but like Hulk Herald of Galactus kind of thing, just come in and just man, that'd be fun. I mean, it may be kind of a simple, like quick. I don't know if you could really do a whole movie out of it, but they did their own take on Ragnarok, and like it wasn't. It was they were able to confine it in one little movie and do Gladiator Hulk and stuff without doing, the true like version of it. So I mean,
Sure.
make it work. It'd be kind of cool. I don't know if we really need it, but I would really like to see it. Kind of like we didn't really need like Logan or Old Man Logan, but I'm really glad we got it.
Yeah.
Like so. But anyways, guys, what do you think about all this? Are you excited for She-Hulk? Are you excited for Moon Knight or Secret Invasion? Which one are you looking forward to most? And does it surprise you that both Secret Invasion is not really going to be covering, pretty much anything in the comics, really, for the most part? You can kind of guess just based on Kevin Feige's comments, and just with when you think about what actually happened in there, given the huge cast it does have. There's like really no way they could be pulling the majority of the elements from the comics. So what do you think about that? And then what do you think about our boy Ethan Hawke? Kind of, I don't know, maybe retracting his previous statements and coming in and actually being a part of the MCU in a comic book movie. Let us know what you think down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next main topic here is going to be something I'm so happy to see back, and just something I've been missing it for a very long time. And that's if y'all remember back in like the early 2000s and late 90s, man, LucasArts. Man, they were pumping out Star Wars games left and right. Most of them were actually good too, surprisingly. We got a ton of different kinds of games from them at the time. Like they were just popping off, and then they went away. And then unfortunately, when George Lucas sold the Star Wars to Disney. Disney went out of their way and then signed over exclusive rights to the Star Wars games over to EA, which was the worst goddamn decision anybody could have made, given EA's track record at the time. And kind of EA has been turning it around lately. I mean, ever since Apex, man, they've been turning stuff around, like not putting monetization driven crap in all their games. Like, it's still there, but it's not pay to win as like it used to be for like all their games at that point in time. But anyway, main thing here now that we're talking about is Lucasfilm Games is back in some way. Well, it's back as Lucasfilm Games. LucasArts is essentially back in some way under a new brand of Lucasfilm Games. And with that, it has essentially, I don't know how they got out of this, or maybe if we weren't reported to correctly as far as the EA actually having that 10-year contract with them. I don't know if maybe Disney bought them out of it or what, because with this announcement for Lucasfilm Games and all Star Wars games are going to be come out under Lucasfilm Games banner. On their little sizzle reel they showed all of EA's games, so like your Battlefront and your Jedi Fallen Order and whatnot, but then they showed like a lot of their older games and everything, and like some new upcoming ones like the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga game and all that. It's going to all have the Lucasfilm Games banner on it. And then also they announced 2 new games under this new banner, one being a open world Star Wars game with no other details, unfortunately, about it, but coming from Ubisoft, however you want to pronounce it, who makes like the Assassin's Creed games and everything like that. So my mind immediately went to Assassin's Creed as far as, because this was being mentioned as an open world game and everything. And then we also got a little teaser trailer for something that has the potential for greatness, and that is well, I don't know about the Bethesda part, because Bethesda's like super hit and miss sometimes. But they're making an Indiana Jones game is coming out from Bethesda. So your Fallout, your Skyrim, good stuff, right? And then like a game that I don't think ever got enough love from Bethesda was Dishonored. I really loved the first one. Never finished the second one for whatever reason, but I love the first one. So that's going to be exciting, because I mean, if you look at the success of Uncharted, which is pretty much Indiana Jones with a different name, the Indiana Jones game has a ton of potential to be amazing. So I mean, just given the fact that, I mean, even going back to like Tomb Raider and stuff, I mean, it's the same concept. So it has a lot of potential. The only it's both a blessing and a curse that is coming from Bethesda, because it could be your Fallout, whatever. What was the most recent Fallout that came out that was like just everybody hated? I can't remember what it was. I didn't play it. The one
76 or something.
Yeah, I think it was 76. Yeah, or then they had like the one that was supposed to be like the multiplayer one or something that was like broken as hell when it first came out. I forget what it was called.
I think that was it.
Was that it?
No, I think it's the same thing. Yeah, I don't think they've had a Fallout game since Fallout 4, I believe. I believe 4 was like the last
last true
story mode. Yeah.
I never got into the Fallout franchise, so that was just something I missed out on. I never cared for it. Like, granted, I never actually fully played them through. I've bought them and like literally never played them. Kind of like Witcher 3. I've bought that. I've played it for like an hour, and I just never got back to it. And I know it's a great game. I've heard from millions of people, not directly, but indirectly heard from millions of people that they're great games. But I'm super, super excited about this Lucasfilm Games announcement, for the simple fact though that like I said off the top, back in the 90s and early 2000s, when LucasArts was a thing, man, they were pumping out so many good Star Wars games. Dude, like Pod Racer. I hope they make a new Pod Racer.
That was fun.
I hope they make dude, a lot of people with this Ubisoft one, they're kind of like the general consensus that I'm hearing from a lot of people is they think it's going to be a bounty hunter is going to be the character you're going to be.
That would be cool.
Here's the thing. I don't want that. Like, I just feel like, here's the thing. Let me throw this at you. I'd be fun. I'd play the game. Okay. If I'm just going to be like a Mandalorian in an open world, I'm going to play the game.
That'd be sick.
I'm going to play the game. But let me just throw this at you. You can play Star Wars: The Old Republic right now, right? And when you play The Old Republic, you have a choice to choose your class, right? You can either be on the Empire, the Sith Empire, or you can be the Republic and the Jedis and stuff. So you can be like a Jedi, a tank, a Jedi DPS, your Jedi healer, or whatever, or you can be a trooper. or you can be, just a smuggler, right? So you can be two different types of Jedis essentially, and then a trooper or a smuggler. And they have subclasses for them too. Then, like on the Sith side, the same thing. You can be a Sith juggernaut, like a tank. You can be a Sith assassin. You can be a Sith sorcerer. Obviously, I played the Empire because I know all the names for those ones. And then you can be like an agent, like an operative, which is just like the smuggler for the other side, and then you can be a bounty hunter, which is just like the trooper on the other side. So they're the exact same thing, they're just on the different sides, right? But imagine playing a Star Wars game and playing a class that doesn't use a lightsaber.
That would kind of suck.
It's like, why would you, like, you know what I mean? Like, when I've made, like, I have like 3 Sith sorcerer characters alone because I got like a level boost for it when I came back to that game, for instance, and I didn't feel like leveling. Like, I wanted to play my Sith sorcerer, but I didn't want to level it up because I had a free boost. So, like, I literally have like 3 of them. Like, I don't want to play a game where I'm not using a lightsaber. All right, I got to use a lightsaber. Now, granted, I do like the option. Like, I just don't know how like excited I am about. Like, now, granted, this isn't like confirmed that you're going to be a bounty hunter or whatever through it, and I'm totally going to play it, and it could totally be amazing. There's plenty of games out there that are incredible where you don't use a lightsaber. So, I mean, it's just like I said. Imagine playing a Star Wars game and not playing the lightsaber class.
Yeah,
Who's gonna do
that
that?
would.
You know what I mean? Who's going to do that? You know what I mean? Like, if you were to play the Old Republic right now, John, and you saw like you could have a double-bladed lightsaber, or you could shoot force lightning, or you could have 2 lightsabers, or you could have just be a big Darth Vader with 1 lightsaber, or you could be a bounty hunter or an Imperial operative. Which one sounds more fun?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, I'll probably want to go with the lightsabers and the force and powers and shit. Like,
You know, what you were saying is exactly true, and I think it's the reason that Battlefront. I think it's the reason EA lost exclusivity to the Star Wars franchise because they put all their chickens in the Battlefront basket, and Battlefront was just like you're a grunt with a blaster, except occasionally you get a power up to be one of the special characters, and you know.
They turned it around in Battlefront 2, though. They turned it around.
Sure. Well, after the debacle, of Battlefront,
they made it better.
Launch where like it was going to take 2 years to unlock Luke as a playable character for the average player,
or $2,000.
Or $2,000.
Yeah, because it was literally was pay to win. Yeah, 2,000 hours or $2,000. Which one? All right.
So I mean, I see what you're saying. I do, I believe I played at least one of my playthroughs, Knights of the Old Republic, kind of as a smuggler, and I didn't main lightsabers a whole lot with it. I played kind of with just the tech side of it. So I could see doing it. Of course, I also played it with the lightsaber and going full Jedi on it too. So.
Like when the option's there, it's like that's the thing. It's like when the option's there, I'm never not gonna choose to have a lightsaber.
Oh yeah.
So like in this situation, if they release a game where you are a Mandalorian and that's the game, like of course I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna like it. Like if it's good, right? Well, I mean, if you have an open world, if this game comes out and it's like you can choose to be a force wielder with a lightsaber or a bounty hunter with a jetpack and stuff, like I'm gonna choose the lightsaber. Okay, like I have to do it. That's who I am, man. That's who I am. Like, but
I think the idea of having like an open world Star Wars game, like a new version, come out, I think that's awesome. Like I would buy a gaming PC or console in itself just to play that. I mean, I'm a diehard Star Wars fan, so I'm a little biased, but I think it's cool that there's new possibilities for different kinds of games coming out, and Lucasfilm Games or whatever they call it. I think that's cool.
Well, that's the thing. I hope with this, one thing I want to see, which we'll kind of get into here with another one potentially, and I was telling John about this the other day. Like, I always thought like it would be super cool. You have a game like Legend of Zelda, like Breath of the Wild, for instance. Like think about that game. Just a big open world RPG game, single player, whatever. But I always thought it'd be amazing if you could just play that game co-op and like your buddy could just jump into your game and just go along. The mobs will scale with you and your buddy based on your level and everything. But like you just go through and just play the game together. You know what I mean? Just that would be amazing. So like I hope, like I want to see a game like that come out like not necessarily exactly like that, but just a game that has some sort of co-op stuff. Because like we were gonna get into it later, but for instance, like the Gotham Knights game that's coming out from Warner Brothers and everything, they've supposedly gone in and kind of reworked how the game even like works. I suspect this is probably has a lot to do with what Rocksteady did with their Suicide Squad games. They probably wanted to differentiate it a little bit because they're both going to be coming around the same time. But they have gone in and tried to revamp the game to actually put more of a focus on co-op play. And I don't know. I just would really like to see that in like an open world game. Not that like this one, not that I want this Ubisoft one to actually do it, but I just hope now that we're gonna have all of these, other companies out there, these other developers are gonna be able to make Star Wars games now. I just hope we get some more stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like the Battlefront games, like none of them lived up to the old Battlefront 2. Like in my
Oh,
opinion,
yeah.
none really lived up to it. They got the current Battlefront 2. I will give EA and DICE all the credit in the world for turning that game around and rebuilding everything, rebuilding how the unlocks work and all that stuff. Like adding in a ton of new heroes. Like, I mean, you can play as a lot of like different like actual hero characters, and the actual like hero versus villains game modes in Battlefront 2, not the first one. Battlefront 1 was a wash. Like it looked amazing and it was fun to play like the regular modes in that game, but the hero versus villains versions just sucked and they didn't have like any real options for it either. But Battlefront 2, man, they really turned that game around, and the heroes versus villains portion of it is like really fun. Like I actually have a
Mhm.
lot, and it could be so much better though. Like granted, they could have more characters, the gameplay could be more fluid. The list kind of goes on, but for what it is an enjoyable game as it is. Like, what I mean? Like it could be better, but whatever. So I hope that we do get a Battlefront 3 and they can just kind of
Learn from their mistakes and
I think the biggest problem that they had with it, especially like in the first one, for instance, in the first Battlefront, they had to keep it consistent in the one time frame, so you didn't get any of the extra heroes. Like that, you only had it was in the original trilogy time period, so they were limited to who they could put in there. And then because they limited themselves that way, they didn't really put any work into the hero versus villains mode because there's only like 6 of them that you could be anyway.
yeah.
And then they really turned that around, like I said in the second one, because you could be they had the Phantom Menace, the prequel characters were in it, Clone Wars characters were in it, new trilogy was in it, sequel trilogy was in it. Like they have just a laundry list of different characters you can be, and you can just play them all. What I really want is a game like Battlefront, like Battlefront 3, for instance. I'll even just say that DICE and EA can keep making it, but if they make a Battlefront 3, make it like just the best Star Wars experience of possible. Put every goddamn character that you can in that thing.
Fan
Like,
favorites,
I mean,
yeah, Easter
everything.
eggs,
Like, I put a
learn from
Ahsoka
the
in there, like,
Mandalorian,
everything.
like
That's what I'm saying. Just put everything in there. Like, go all out on it. Like,
Lando would be a cool playable character.
well, they have Boba Fett. Like, and that's the thing
Yeah.
too. It was really a shame because they just recently, like, not recently, but within this past year, they ended the live service for Battlefront 2, and a lot of the devs came out and said that like one of the hero characters they were working on, they really wanted to get into the game was Ahsoka Tano.
Pretty cool.
Because they did have the Clone Wars characters in there. They had Anakin, Obi-Wan, Grievous, whatever, and Dooku, and they really wanted to get Ahsoka in there. And then they also ended the live service right before Mandalorian popped off. So they, like as it stands right now, they weren't able to capitalize on the success of Mando. So like, there's no Mando in the game. They could have had Mando and Ahsoka. Ahsoka could have had Clone Wars costumes and Mandalorian costumes. Like it could have just been cool, man. It could have been so much stuff. But that's what I want to see. I want to see them make a Battlefront 3 game, but actually have like just everything in it, dude. Throw the old Republic characters in it. Like
That'd be
throw
cool.
like
Call it
just,
like Battlefront Ultimate or something.
just Battlefront 3. Just have everybody in it. Like just all the characters possible. Throw them in it.
Put 'em
Like
in it.
like they already exist. Just
Revan
do it.
and
Like yeah, everything.
Darth
Just
Mavic and
make the best Star Wars game possible. Damn it. That's all I want to see from any of them, really. So I'm just excited that all these other companies can finally do it because
write him a letter. Tell him what you think.
I'm just saying, man. That's been like my biggest disappointment with Battlefront in general because I don't know. As a shooter, it's not the greatest shooter, and I think the biggest strength in that game is that, like the Star Wars aspect of it. So,
Yeah, the characters that drive the game.
you know what I mean. So like I don't know. I just like to see more of that being done. You know what I mean? Because it's fun playing the
True,
regular
true.
modes. Like it's not a terrible shooting game, but there's better ones out there. So like I just feel like if they leaned in a little bit more to the Star Wars stuff, like it'd probably be a little bit more fun. Is there any kind of game that like you want to see come out of this, John? Like style wise, though, you're excited to see?
I mean, you were talking about like the Breath of the Wild drop in. I'd like to see some co-op games. You know, I was really excited when I heard that Ubisoft was the ones they're developing a game because they specifically name dropped the Division, and
Mhm.
I'm like, I was hardcore into Destiny 1 when it was out. I love the idea of, getting together with some friends online and going and doing a raid or going and doing some strikes. And then Destiny 2 came out and ruined that for me. But that being said, I still like
Mhm.
I like the looter games. When you say looter shooter, it specifically kind of points to shooting games. But obviously, that with Star Wars, you wouldn't necessarily just be shooter games. There'd be other elements to it. So I don't want to just call it a looter shooter, but I like the looter type games, like where you get together with some friends and run some strikes, run some raids, do whatever. That aspect was really enticing because the Division. Sorry, I kind of dropped the lead there. The Division was one of those style of games, and I like the Division too. I played that quite a bit too, for at least for the first one. And for all the problems it had, I still had fun with it. And I think that could be a lot of fun. I also think the idea of maybe an RTS game set during the Clone Wars could be kind of
Mhm.
fun. If they decide to go that route or something. They've also, they're making a big push for the High Republic and their new initiative with that. I kind of wonder if it's just a matter of time before we get some sort of game set during that time period
I'm
too.
sure we
So
will.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm super excited that the license is not exclusive. Like you said, that was such a mistake on their part when they bought it. My only thinking is that because they laid out such a chunk of change to acquire the Lucas license or Lucasfilm license, that EA must have stepped up and given them a nice little chunk of change to have the exclusive rights, and it helped offset their books for that quarter or that fiscal year just to make their books look a little
Yeah.
bit better. And that's the only rationale I can think of for why they gave them that exclusivity.
I just think they
So
squandered it, like, on EA's and not that they just made
oh
bad games,
sure,
it's just they didn't make enough. Like, you have Battlefront and Fallen Order, and that's it. Like, you didn't make any other Star
Squadrons.
Wars games.
You've got
Oh, yeah, I guess
Squadrons
Squadrons
now,
too. Squadron is just so
but
niche,
it's
and it came out
it's
right at
at
the
the
end.
I got an
sure,
idea
but
when you guys get a chance.
Yeah, what
no,
is
go
it?
ahead, throw it
Yeah.
out there.
A Mortal Kombat style Star Wars game
Yeah,
where you
fighting
could,
game.
yeah, like where you can be anything from a Jedi, Sith Lord, a Mandalorian, bounty hunter, whatever. But like have lightsaber combat aspects to it, have like the Force in there, and make it to where like obviously it's fair character versus character and all that. But like I would play the hell out of something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they have the roster to do it,
That's what
and
I'm saying.
also the
Sure.
gameplay and with the characters they have, both with, like, bounty hunters and the scoundrels, troopers, and force users and stuff really lends itself to, the ARPGs like Diablo and Path of Exile.
Yeah.
Like, you could totally make a Star Wars ARPG, and it would totally work, and you could have a ton of different classes because you have your, like, tanky kinda class with just, like, a one lightsaber. You also have some mage kinda stuff or wizard kinda stuff with, force lightning and just regular force powers and shit. Like, there's a lot you could do with it. I would play the hell out of a Star Wars ARPG game. It'd be fun.
It would be really cool in a Star Wars fighting game to see, like, I'm thinking off the top of my head, like, obviously, I'm not sure that you'd go full on finishers, like Mortal Kombat
Yeah,
style
yeah.
finishers,
Yeah, I wouldn't do
but you
that.
could have some, like, what if you played, like, what if you kinda mained Anakin on that, and, like, every time you had the option to finish someone, or your ending, whatever your ending move was, like, what if you decide to decapitate him, a la Attack of the Clones Dooku style, and like, what if that then those decisions started influencing the look of your character, like you started to become more dark side
Yeah.
looking, and and then
That'd
it
be
would
sick.
fluctuate back and forth. It would add just a little cool, like, element to your playing, which would, if you wanted to make your character more light side and more good, you could do that by choosing more
You could
pacifist
have like a
endings or
custom
whatever.
character maker too, like have all the
Hmm.
main characters and stuff like that, but have the ability to set up and create your own character in that universe.
Yeah, you could pick out move lists and
Yeah,
like
like
different.
weapons
Yeah,
and light side, dark side.
very cool.
There's a
Like
lot they
that
can do.
idea.
That's what I'm excited about, though, is like now, and I even was reading something or watched something of it when I think it was a video they made, but they said that like Lucasfilm Games said that like they always get like there's tons of people out there who want to play in their world, like in the Star Wars world. Like they get tons of pitches on a regular basis from just every studio you can imagine coming to them with ideas for a game. But like now they can actually go through with these things as they get good ones. So like that's what I'm excited for, is having, Bethesda making an Indiana Jones kind of, game. You have both like, I mean, you have the company that made Fallout and Skyrim, great open world RPG games, and like so there's some weight to that. It gives some anticipation, some actual credence to having this Indiana Jones game be successful. I mean, it's coming from a reputable place, as opposed to there was just so many question marks with like EA. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
especially when like even when Fallen Order was coming out, before anybody got any gameplay or any news on it at all, it's coming from EA and it was coming from Respawn, and Respawn had really only been known for like shooters at that point. So there was just so many question marks in the air of just like, well, how's this Jedi game going to work coming from these companies? You know what I mean? It's like turned out fucking great. Fallen Order is probably one of the best Star Wars game we've had in the last 10 years, easy. But so I'm excited for Fallen Order too.
So do you think in this day and age of, we just got Final Fantasy VII remake this past year, we've gotten lots of remakes of other games, and it tends to be a trendy thing to do is update the graphics and the gameplay. How long do you think it is before we get a KOTOR remake? Do you think
happen.
somebody's going to pick that up? You don't think
That'd
so?
be cool.
No, fans were making it. Fans were going through, and actually there was a project for them remaking KOTOR 1 in Unreal Engine, and
Yeah.
Disney made them shut it down.
Oh,
It's not going to happen.
yeah.
You don't think they're like? You don't think they shut it down because they have plans to do it? Possibly.
No, because they killed it before. They were going to make a KOTOR 3, and trust me, I just want KOTOR 3. I don't care about them remaking it, like,
Sure.
but they I would love for them to remake it. I just don't think it's going to happen, given the track record that they've had with that franchise for whatever reason. They just seem to like not want to like. They were going to make KOTOR 3, that got killed, and then they went on with the Old Republic, and then like they still service that game, but not really. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's like they haven't done as much work as like, granted it's not as successful as World of Warcraft, but they haven't put as much work into it like that Blizzard's has. Blizzard's gone in and like they may still use the same engine that they've used for the last 15 years, but they at least were able to go in and update the engine enough to get like new textures in there that actually look nice for today's standards, kind of thing, and like KOTOR, or not KOTOR, but SWTOR, the Old Republic, it still looks the same it did when it came out 11 years ago. Like, and it's like they haven't updated anything. I don't know what it is about like that. Like, for whatever reason, they just don't seem to want to make the Old Republic be as good as it should be, because it's literally the best thing we've gotten out of Star Wars, arguably ever, but definitely since the original trilogy. There's been nothing as good as KOTOR lore at all in Star Wars, in my opinion. Like that lore,
The lore is cool.
is untouched outside of the original trilogy. You can say the original trilogy is the best, and I won't argue with you, but nothing else comes close to the KOTOR lore.
I tell you what, I think within the next 2 years, I think we hear an announcement that they're remaking Knights of the Old Republic. I think that the fan base is just, I think it's there for it. I think the fan support is there for it. Disney's,
I don't know.
Disney didn't go back and like, while it may be extended universe and not canon for them, they didn't go back and like when they were developing this High Republic thing that they're starting now, they didn't jump all the way back to, KOTOR days to set it in. They set it only a few hundred years before Battle of Yavin, and so I really think that they haven't specifically talked about that era or done anything with it because
they have,
because they're just waiting. They're waiting to do something with it.
Kennedy's talked about it before. She's been asked about it before, and she has said that like they have plans or things have been talked about it, but I just don't know like The only other thing is too with what makes me think a KOTOR remake won't happen is because of the combat style of being like turn-based as it is. It's
Well, but
not
that's
something
why,
that a lot of people today really care about. That's why
Yeah.
I would really think a
sure,
third
but I thought you
one
might
was new,
see you
but
might see an update to that, to the combat style. Like
they couldn't
when I'm
change it
talking
though.
remake, when I'm talking remake, I'm not talking like they're just bringing it
Retexturing
straight.
it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
They
thinking they
can't do
may.
it though. You can't change a game like that and then expect it'd be a waste of money because you'd have so many people pissed off about changing the game. That's
You
how
think
it was
so?
100%.
People
Like,
are used to what they're
when
Is
used
that is
to.
that is
classic
that what they
WoW
like? I never played Final Fantasy VII. I don't know if you guys did, but I never played the first Final Fantasy VII, and I didn't play the update, so
yeah, I haven't
I'm not
either.
sure. But I know it's a beloved game, and my impression was that the old game was the kind of turn-based RPG style game, and I thought they updated the combat and stuff for the remake.
I don't
I'll
know.
have to, I'll have to look at.
I never played any Final Fantasy games other than
Neither
Final
have I.
Fantasy 14, the MMO one. I played a little bit of the MMO. Like I've just
Oh.
it's another franchise like Fallout that I just never got into, just from an aesthetic
It's an
standpoint.
in-depth franchise
Yeah.
too.
Like I don't know. I never got into it. I think you're 100% right that they did update the combat and everything, but I don't know the direct comparison. All I know is as a lifelong World of Warcraft player, when they announced WoW Classic, the #1 motto was no changes. Like the community wanted absolutely no changes. If they changed anything, like they did quality of life stuff, like they changed a couple of things, just like how things function as far as like bugginess, we'll say. Like, but they didn't change a single thing, like at all. And I feel like with KOTOR, it'd be this: you run the risk of doing the same thing. If you remake it and change it, you run the risk of
what if it releases
alienating.
what if it releases alongside the classic game? Like you buy a copy of KOTOR remastered and you get the updated game with the updated changes, but you also get a ported version of the classic game, and then you have your option. Because I just think
If
there's
you could toggle it on and
as
off,
much
I
as,
think it'd be fine.
Yeah, yeah.
well, not even toggle. Like you have to do, because I think there's I mean, KOTOR is how old now? We're talking like what, 15 years at least.
Yeah, it's pretty old.
Yeah.
So there's a whole generation of kids that don't know that game and don't know that world, and they won't because they're not going to go back and play a turn-based game. But if you update the look and you update the combat and do a remaster or a re-release of it, there's a whole generation of gamers out there that would, well, can you imagine the amount of streamers that would like play it and like
Oh yeah.
I think there's a place for it. I
agree.
I understand the idea that you don't want to. It's beloved and it's a classic, and you don't want to, for lack of a better word, shit on it. Like you don't want to, change it.
Yeah.
But as long as they release a ported version of the old one, so you have your option. Like I can still play my classic KOTOR if I want.
If
Here's
you
a
could
shiny
toggle it
new
on and
different
off,
version.
for sure, yeah, I think it'd be fine. I just
Okay.
don't think they could remake it. I wouldn't do it, at least, because I wouldn't want to risk alienating the audience. Because it's like the majority of people who would be buying a KOTOR game are people who played KOTOR.
Yeah, yeah, because
It's not going to be new games.
they want to go back to it.
Yeah. If they made a new installment of it with like just a KOTOR 3 or whatever, then yeah, it could have updated gameplay. I would definitely not want it to be turn-based if they made one now. I would honestly prefer them to make a game that played a lot more like Fallen Order or like Dark Souls or Demon Souls or whatever. That kind of gameplay
that would be cool.
is very well suited for because it worked really good in Fallen Order. So if they just made just make Fallen Order set in KOTOR times, that's fine. Like I would play that. You know what I mean? Because unfortunately, the gameplay is just not something turn-based wise like that people of today would care about. I think it's fun and fine. Like I mean, hell, it worked for Pokemon for the last 20 years. Like that's still just turn-based text combat to this day, which is the biggest complaint I have about Pokemon franchise at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I hope though, if I could make them come back and come out with any game, it would be some form of KOTOR. Like whether it's just set in the time period or just if I could get KOTOR 3, I would take KOTOR 3 so they could just continue the story. But I'd be good with any game being set in that time period too, as long as it's a good game.
I'm waiting on that fighting game. That would be so cool.
I mean, I could see him doing that too. It just, I don't know. You're just kind of limited with fighting styles in that, and with that is the only kind of problem, really. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
You'd have to be a little bit inventive and creative with it, because you'd have to, like, for like a Force user, for instance, you'd have to make it to where, like, your Palpatine would obviously be different because of the Force lightning, right? So you'd kind of exploit that and make that be his thing. But then, like, Luke and Vader would, for the most part, have pretty similar fighting styles. Like, they just both use one lightsaber.
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
you could have
But
Vader
you
using
got your
chokes
force
and
chokes. You've got yeah.
yeah, you'd have to be real
Force
creative with
lifting
that
and
kind of stuff to make it to make each character feel different.
And then make like the shooting characters, say like bounty hunters or smugglers or whatever, just make them OP so it equals out against somebody like with a lightsaber.
Well, you just make the
Yeah,
damage
I mean-
scale. That's
Yeah.
just because, I mean, the best people to do that, in all honesty, would be NetherRealm, because they've done it with their Mortal Kombat characters who use like swords and different stabs and things like that, and they've done it with DC characters who don't have fatalities and things like that, and you wouldn't have fatalities in the Star
No,
Wars.
They've brought in like Leatherface and
Mhm.
Predator and Aliens and just all these characters from other
Yeah.
genres
Darth
too.
Vader.
So yeah, they definitely have.
No, Vader.
Darth Vader
He was
That was in
Soul
Soul
Calibur
Calibur.
4. Yeah. I think it was 4.
Soul Calibur.
Yeah, Yoda and Darth Vader in the Xbox
Yep.
and PS3 version. Yeah, it was PS3.
Only Soul Calibur game I ever bought because of that.
Yeah. No, I had the one before that was Spawn.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta get that. Like, you put Spawn in it, I'm gonna buy it. They put Spawn in Mortal Kombat 11, and I bought it.
Yeah.
Like, you put Spawn in the game, I'm gonna buy the game. Like, it's just how it works. Same with these. You put Star Wars on it, I'll probably buy it. So,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I mean,
even
just-
though, like, yeah, I want to play the Jedi character. You make a bounty hunter game, I'm gonna buy it. Granted, I'm not gonna buy the Lego game because I just don't really care for those games. They're fun, but I don't know.
Yeah, not my thing, really.
Not something I care about playing, like, really. But I don't know. I'm excited either way. I'm just excited to have some new takes on like the Star Wars games, and like Lucasfilm or Lucas Games be its own thing again. Like, that's what excites me more than anything. So, well, guys, let us know what you think about this. What kind of Star Wars game are you looking forward to the most? Are you looking forward to like the ones that have been announced, like your Ubisoft open world Star Wars game? Are you excited for that? Are you excited for Fallen Order 2, a Battlefront 3? Like, these ones are kind of foregone conclusions, right? We know these ones are going to happen, like the Indiana Jones one too. But like, what game out there are you looking forward to most that hasn't been announced that you would like to see? Like Rick said, he'd like to see a fighting game, like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter kind of thing, but with the Star Wars characters. That could be fun. I don't know. There's tons of stuff. I'd like to see another KOTOR. I'd like to see just something. There's just so many options now. I'd love a remake of Pod Racer, though. That'd be a great game. That'd be really fun to have. So let us know what you guys think and what game you want to see down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our penultimate topic here is going to be about the Snyder Cut, because we would be remiss if we didn't mention the Snyder Cut at least once. And every episode of every week, we got to talk about the Snyder Cut at least once until it comes out. It's going to be kind of sad once the Snyder Cut actually comes out in some ways, because we're not going to be able to talk about it anymore. It's been just something that like everybody in fandom has been able to talk about for like a couple of years at this point. Pretty much ever since Justice League, people have been clamoring for the Snyder Cut. We've gotten a lot of content out of Snyder Cut news too, so it's going to be kind of upsetting on that level once it's gone too. But anyways, with this, we got confirmation from Harry Lennix himself that his character, what's his name in here? General Calvin Swanwick, is going to be, he shot stuff as Martian Manhunter. It's going to be confirmed in the Snyder Cut. That is his character is going to be Martian Manhunter, which I've said since day one.
You've always said that.
I've said literally since Man of Steel came out. I was like, bet that dude's Martian Manhunter. I've said it. I said they should do it if they weren't going to do it, because it makes too much sense. The dude was always cool with Superman. Like, it just made perfect sense for him to have been Martian Manhunter. So I'm just kind of glad that this is actually like for sure a thing, and I wasn't like crazy in thinking it, because Zach obviously had the same mindset that I did, that like this character would be perfect to be Martian Manhunter. So here it is. So I'm excited to see. How much do you think we're actually going to see? Because he goes on to say that he says it's going to be great to be up there with Batman and Superman and my pals. So how much do you think like an actual Martian Manhunter himself is going to be in it? Like in like alien form, or just his character in general.
I don't
Because
think it's going to be much.
yeah,
Yeah, especially the alien form. I mean, that's a lot of new stuff to add, but I mean, I could be wrong.
Well, and plus, haven't
depends.
I mean, they've already talked about how they've only added. He only shot what 5 minutes
Yeah,
of
it was
new
like 5
footage.
minutes. Yeah.
So I mean, I think
I
the
doubt
most that
it's
we
gonna
could hope
be.
for would be 5 minutes, unless there's pre-existing footage.
Well, yeah,
that
and you
is-
got to think of too with the 5 minutes thing, because we talked about it before. Some of that has to include the Joker stuff and Deathstroke stuff. So it's like once you start including some of these things, like you're running out of time.
5 minutes is not very much time at all.
I mean, 5 minutes on camera in a scene, it is longer than you would think, but when you're talking like Joker, Deathstroke, Martian Manhunter, are they including CGI shots, like full CGI shots?
Because they
like
didn't shoot that
yeah,
technically.
that's what I'm saying. So it's like maybe there's some leeway with that if he wasn't really including that. Maybe he was saying I've shot 5 minutes physically with a camera, but Martian Manhunter could be just digitally added. So like maybe he could be there in the final fight. I don't know.
Mhm.
They could always say like he's like super duper old too, and they throw him into the flashback fight if they really wanted to, but who knows what they're gonna do with it. I'm just excited that like I was on the same wavelength with Zack Snyder about this
Yeah.
and that he's in it. So,
You really have like always said that. Like, what if he's Martian Manhunter?
yeah, dude. Like always.
I'm I'm starting to wonder if we're really going to get that March date. If we're really going to get, and here's the reason I see that is because we have yet to get like a new trailer for it. I know they released a pseudo trailer, but it was a lot of footage that had been in Zach's
yeah.
first trailer for it.
True.
You're talking about, I mean, we've already talked about how there's over like almost what 2.5 hours of additional footage that's going to be in this movie that wasn't in the Justice League cut of it.
That's crazy.
So when you're talking about that much footage, that's plenty of footage to cut a new trailer from, and we're only what 6 weeks out from March. Even if it's the end of March, we're 8 weeks out from that, and they haven't put out a trailer to start. So I'm starting to wonder if that March date isn't somewhat maybe is going to be moved or wasn't a little bit too hopeful.
You know what I could say, like what I'm kind of thinking with this is too, though, at least as far as like having like a new trailer with like new footage and stuff in it, I could totally see them not wanting to spend a lot more money on marketing stuff for it because they've had to spend so
Why?
much money on making it. Like
Yeah, that's
maybe,
very true.
Yeah.
but at the
Why
same time,
wouldn't
they
you?
need to because they want to use this for HBO Max more than anything.
Yeah,
That's the only reason it
this is
exists to begin with. Like,
yeah, this is to get people to sign up and use the service. And the other thing is too, like if it is March, why wouldn't you be attaching a new trailer for it to either the before Wonder Woman part of HBO? Like anytime anybody fires up Wonder Woman 84 on HBO Max, wouldn't you expect there to be a trailer for Justice League's or not Justice League for Snyder Cut so that people don't cancel their subscription once Wonder Woman's gone or cancel their subscription after they watch it? I would think that you would throw a trailer on there to entice people and say, hey, look, coming in just 6 short weeks, we've got Zack Snyder's Justice League, and so I'm just when we start talking Snyder Cut, that starts making I'm eager to see how Martian Manhunter gets into the mix and all that, and then I start thinking, okay, well, how long do I have to wait to get to this point? And I'm starting to think that it may not be as soon as I kind of hoped it was.
yeah, I mean, the thing I think though, if I had to guess, I bet we're gonna have a trailer like a full like new footage kind of trailer by the end of the month.
Yeah.
Probably February. I'd say mid
I mean,
February.
They're going to have to release something.
I mean, it doesn't cost much to cut a trailer, and I understand like you're not going to be running, you're not going to run an ad during the Super Bowl for.
Oh no, they are 100%.
Oh, you think so?
100%.
You think there'll be a Super Bowl ad?
Dude, I guarantee it.
Okay, well maybe they'll do that.
It's the most
But it doesn't
huge
cost
thing for sure.
It doesn't cost them a dime to put up a trailer on their social media sites,
But it
and they have
also
just
isn't
there's
gonna
nothing.
it's not gonna do anything for them right now, though. You know what I mean? Because if you put it out too early, like, for a normal release movie, 3 months before it comes out in theaters is around when, like, they do start their, marketing for it, like, their bigger heavy push for it, which is where we're at now for it, but this being, like, an HBO Max thing, and you throw on the fact that they've spent, let's say, $100 million trying to get this thing out to begin with, and HBO Max hasn't been pumping the numbers that they'd be wishing they would, are right now. I think they're just waiting to do it so that they can just flood the market, essentially. Just like Snyder cut, Snyder cut, Snyder cut, and like people not have to wait too long because they don't want. If they do it now, it'd be like my favorite example is Godzilla King of the Monsters. They released their first trailer at San Diego Comic-Con, but it was like a year and some odd time away from the release date. Everyone was super hype after watching that trailer because it's a great trailer. Like, it's an amazing trailer. Nobody cared a month later.
Yeah.
Nobody, like, and then you still had to wait
Well,
a year for the movie anyway.
but speaking of that too, we just found out this week that Godzilla versus King Kong is moving their release
It's
date
March, right?
up to March.
Yeah.
So are they going to drop both those during the month of March, or do you think maybe they push Snyder Cut back to April and then have that kind of
Dude,
I
I
don't know,
would bet that
whatever.
Snyder Cut would get moved up before it gets moved back.
Yeah.
Really?
People are anticipating that way too much to move back. I feel
there's
like.
two, like, people want
The backlash would be insane.
people. Well, I don't know if there would be too much backlash for it. I just think it would be better for them because there's so many people waiting for it. I was just like, what do you think is going to get them more subscribers? Godzilla, a franchise that hasn't really been performing all that well, or Snyder Cut, which literally got willed into existence by millions of fans or whatever.
Sure.
You know what I
Sure.
mean?
I'm just
I don't
trying
know,
to
though.
figure out like why we're not hearing more. Like I would if that's all true and they would move it. I mean, if you'd move it up from March, then I mean, God, you're talking about early March and late February at
Well,
that
it
point.
looks like they moved Godzilla to March 26th. Okay, when does Snyder Cut? When do they have that set to release?
I don't know.
That's interesting. It
The
just says March
only date I
2021.
think was just March because I think Zach said something in a one of his was it Vimeo talks that he does. I think he
According to
said something
12
about
days
March.
ago, potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. See, I just
Potentially.
I think I think I took that. I think a lot of people took that as kind of confirmation that it was March. But the more I think about it, I think it's I don't know. I think it's being pushed back. Plus, all their focus right now seems to be on the fact that they're releasing all their big budget movies alongside
Yeah.
theaters and HBO Max. So at some point, I figure they're going to start attaching
Well,
Snyder Cut promotions to those movies
and that's
or
the
to that
thing. They want the
marketing.
subs, right? So, like, it would make
Yeah,
sense for them to. Okay, so maybe they're not as stupid as what people are thinking because if they pump Snyder Cut, which is 4 episodes, right? It's a 4-part miniseries. That much has been confirmed. If they pump this out on, let's say, the first week of March, then it'll be done in time for Godzilla to come out, so people would keep the sub to watch. It's because it's the
watch
same.
Godzilla.
It's the same audience. Most of the same people who would watch Godzilla would also watch Justice League.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I mean, that's the same target audience. So it would make sense for them to actually use both of these franchises to boost both of them because neither of them have performed as well as either of them should have, and they wanted them to. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Justice League
Yeah,
was I think the least grossing DC movie. A movie with the Justice League in it should not be your lowest grossing movie. Like, you
sure.
know what I mean? And then same with Godzilla King of the Monsters. It really didn't do all that well either, and it wasn't really well received, and like neither was Justice League. So I could totally see them, like, maybe they're being a little bit smarter about it, and they're gonna push this out to where they can bolster those subs because that was their biggest kind of, like, I don't know, I could see why they wanted to do all their movies on HBO Max next year, or I guess this year now, because if you have enough of them that are like similar in target audience, you could just have people like pretty much force them into keeping their monthly sub. Because it's like they watch it, they have it for a month, and then they see that, well, shit, yeah, next month this is coming out, and then
Yeah.
next month this is coming out.
It makes you want to stick around.
Yeah, it's like, so I might as well just keep it because by golly, Matrix 4 is coming out after that. So it's like, if they actually are using Godzilla and Kong and Justice League to do that, then that would kind of make sense. But I totally, there hasn't been 100% confirmation that it's actually happening in March. I mean, this article is from 12 days ago, and it's potentially even then. And then Zach, I think they had Zach's quote saying that it should be in March or something. So I don't know. And even 12 days ago, they even say a trailer is imminent, and it's been 12 days since this article was written. So I would definitely say a trailer's got to be coming, but I wouldn't be, now that we've been talking about it, I wouldn't be completely shocked if it did get pushed back, or if it's going to come out earlier. One of the two. Because like that's the other thing with them moving Godzilla up, even though that movie's been done for like a year. So I mean, they haven't. That was going to be out already, I think, because I think that just got pushed because of COVID. So they haven't been working on it. They could just put that out whenever they want. But yeah, they could move this up and just still kind of like use them unilaterally to promote each other.
I just think if the potential was there for it to hit a March date or even a sooner date, if that was even a possibility, that they would have had some sort of marketing attached to the Wonder Woman 84 release, and there was nothing. So I can't envision them, because I mean, you got Gal Gadot. I mean, you're bringing Gal Gadot back, new footage of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Justice League. Like, why would you not tell people, hey, look, you can get more of her in just 6 weeks if you keep your subscription, and here comes Snyder's cut. You know, that makes me, I'd almost be willing to put money. I'd put money on the fact it's not hitting a March date, because you just don't miss that kind of marketing opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see it. You've definitely convinced me that it's possible. I didn't think it was a possibility before, but I really just wasn't really thinking about it before. But you know, hearing your arguments and then seeing like even this article from 12 days ago, when like it's all kind of up in the air and still don't have any 100% confirmation yet. Typical theatrical release, like I said, would start doing their marketing push like 3 months beforehand. So I don't know. It's a little different because this is his own thing, right? Like the Snyder cut. It's the first of its kind, which I mean, so it's got that going for it. But at the same time, it puts a lot more question marks on it. So like, who knows? I hope it comes out in March though, if not sooner. So I'm ready to see it. I'm ready to see it, especially now that we got Martian Manhunter in it. Like, and I'm also again curious of what Joker and Deathstroke's going to be doing in here.
And to be fair, we're going to have a lot of content because we can talk about the episodes. You know,
that's a good point.
So it's not like,
but when it comes out though, it's finite. You know, it's like we only have these next 4 weeks to talk about.
More time than that.
I'm sure, depending on how good it is and stuff, maybe it's something we'll be talking about forever. Like, maybe.
Pretty bold statement.
Exactly. I mean, we all still talk. I mean, hell, I just watched Captain America: Winter Soldier again today. Like, maybe it'll be good enough to where I want to keep revisiting it. Like, who knows? Like Man of Steel. Like, that's a high bar though, but we'll see. Like, we'll see. But anyways, guys, let us know what you think about this down in the comment section below. Are you excited that Martian Manhunter is coming back? Do you think that Snyder Cut is going to hit this March release date? Or do you think, kind of like John, that it's kind of questionable at this point, especially given the fact that there hasn't really been any real confirmation of it? As of that article from 12 days ago, they're not even able to confirm that it's going to come out in March. And then with them moving Godzilla to March, that kind of makes it even more suspicious. Like, is it a good place so they can use each film to market each property, or is it being delayed or move forward? Whatever it is, let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our final topic here is going to be our spoiler discussion here, kind of spoiler review discussion, recap, if you will, of WandaVision, first MCU property to premiere on Disney Plus. And right off the bat, I'm gonna jump in here. I'm gonna say just off the top, beforehand, before we get into it, I did like the show. Okay, so like, don't think I didn't like the show based on things I'm going to say, but I like the show. All right. Now, with that done and out of the way, though, I am going to get into kind of like my actual, I don't know, like review. It's going to have, I guess, like I'm going to start with negatives. We'll say the only real like negative I have is that like, and it's kind of was my fear with it, that they just leaned too much into the sitcom thing and didn't give enough substance to it, like, as far as a sitcom goes and as far as the MCU stuff goes, like, the current day stuff, like, the what's going on of it all, because after an hour's worth of the show, you still have no inkling of what's actually going on, like,
Exactly.
which I
That's my
think is
thought.
yeah, it's kind of a mistake, because, like, with a sitcom thing, I'm fine with it, I enjoy it, but it's not like anything groundbreaking as far as sitcom stuff goes. It's very mediocre. Like the jokes aren't like any more funny than any other sitcom out there. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the only reason anybody would be, or at least I'm not going to speak for everybody, but like the only reason that like I'm giving it any credence to like continue watching it is because I know it exists inside the MCU. So like I know something like more is to come.
Yeah, more's
But
gonna happen.
yeah, but it's like if you were to I feel like if you remove the MCU equation out of it and you just have the sitcom that's presented to you, I don't think it's anything to write home about. Like it's just kind of run of the mill, generic, mediocre sitcom episode. Nothing. I guess not better than Seinfeld. It's not better than The Office. It's not better
No.
than Friends. Like
It
it's
just reminded me of I Love Lucy, just like quirky 50s sitcom.
yeah, which isn't that's like I said, it's not a bad thing. Like it's just like I don't feel like there definitely was enough of a balance because like I said, you get the same teaser in both episodes essentially, with the exception of the beekeeper guy. That was like the only thing, but it's still
Yeah.
all it does was add more question marks though. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're not given told any answers, anything as to the who, what's, and whys. It's just the sitcom thing, and it's just not that great of a sitcom. So the only reason it's
Ooh.
like I don't know. I just feel like the only reason I'm watching it is because I know it's in the MCU. That's and I don't know. It's like if that's
Like,
really,
if it
that's,
wasn't in the MCU, would you watch it?
that's what I'm saying. No, like I wouldn't like because like it's not that funny of a sitcom. Like you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
if you just look at it from a sitcom standpoint, not the greatest ever. Not that it needs to be, but it's not anything that I would be like, I gotta watch this next week. I need to see what
Stay
antics
tuned.
Wandavision get into now. Like I like that. I've no one.
That Vision, man, he's crazy.
Yeah, like I just wouldn't. I don't think it's really holding up that well for it. And then I don't know. So yeah, I just feel like the only reason I'm watching it is because of the MCU. So like you know what I mean. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I feel like it's partly a bad thing because there's been nothing presented on it to make me watch it otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you remove the MCU element, you're just left with a sitcom thing, which really wasn't all that good.
My thoughts mirror yours, like, exactly.
Yeah. Like, I liked it, though. Like, it was fun to watch. Like, I didn't have anything I don't think
I was
it was
entertained.
bad. Yeah. I didn't think it was bad in any way. I didn't hate it. I wasn't bored by it. I just, like, I just wanted more from it, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. What John, you're obviously on a different camp here. Like, with, I feel like we're going to have a Wonder Woman kind of thing here. Wonder Woman 84.
Well, I
thing.
think we are. I love it. I think it's brilliant. I think it's. I cannot. I don't have enough praise that I can heap upon it. But everything you're saying are the exact like fears that I had about the show when I heard the premise and I heard the whole like I felt like what you're saying about is kind of what a lot of the audience is gonna feel.
Mhm.
And so yeah, is it a funny sitcom on its own? If this was just a sitcom that was on TV, would I watch it? Maybe not. Maybe I would. I don't know. But it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a sitcom. There's a subtexture to it that's going on. There's something happening with Wanda and
Sure.
while I laughed out loud a couple times at a couple of the jokes. There's also like I actually got kind of like emotionally invested in a couple scenes, and they're very short, very quick scenes, but they hit me like a ton of bricks. The first one was at the end of the first episode when they sit on their couch and Vision says something to Wanda like, and then they lived happily ever after.
Mm.
And to me, that was just like an emotional gut punch because they don't live happily ever after. You know what happened
It's
to Vision
true.
in Infinity War, and so the sadness of seeing this happy life for them, knowing that that's not what's happening in the real world, because all things being equal, I think it's pretty safe to say that this probably isn't the real world, that this is probably some sort of either alternate world or fantasy world or computer generated world. There's something weird going on. This is not reality that we're watching.
Before I forget this, I do. And let me add this real because I
Okay,
know I'm
no,
going to
go.
forget. The one thing I did think was interesting because we knew the sitcom thing was fake, right? Like kind of like you're saying, like we know something's off, right? The one thing I thought was kind of interesting. You don't really get this until the second episode when she goes over to that woman's house and before they do the magic show, right? Like when the phone rings and the voice comes through and is asking like Wanda, who's doing this to you? Which sounded like Bruce
Yep.
Banner, by the way. Was that Bruce? Like, I don't think it was, but it kind of sounded like Mark Ruffalo.
Hmm.
I couldn't really decipher who
it was
sounded
hard
like.
to hear. Like at some point, I was like, "Is that Mark Ruffalo?" And I don't know. But what I thought was actually interesting in that scene, though, is that it seems like these people are real. Like that woman, like was a real person, didn't know what was going on with her either. Like when the phone thing started happening and or the radio, whatever it was, and Wanda heard it, it's like her hold over altering reality was slipping, and that woman started to slip back into reality and didn't know what the hell was going on and then broke the glass. So it seems like all these people that are here are actually real existing human beings who are stuck in this situation as a result of Wanda,
With
as
Wanda,
opposed to
yeah.
them being figments of, her imagination. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Which I thought was interesting. Like, that was one thing I didn't know how they were gonna do this, right? Is this gonna be like Truman Show and everyone's real and everyone's in on it? Or is it all fake? You know what I mean? Like, is it just all like, projections or they seem to be real people, which is interesting.
Yeah, it could be like them, because you've also got that shot at the very end of the first episode where somebody pulls away, where this camera pulls away from a monitor that's clearly observing. There's somebody observing what's
Right.
going on. So yeah, this could be real people that have. I mean, all these people could be abducted.
I didn't get
like
that
you
part.
said,
Well,
we
it looked
don't
like
have
it was
any
Sword though, right?
answers.
Wasn't that Sword? The logo.
Well,
and
yes,
everything was for
exactly. And see,
Sword,
that's where
which is
like you
weird.
said, like we don't get a lot of answers, but I feel like they give
You
you,
just get so many
at least for
question
me,
marks.
they gave me enough. They gave me enough that it like I don't mind at all the slow burn that they've got going on, because like
If
very
there's a
early
good
on,
payoff, then it's fine, 100%. Like, yeah,
it's
like,
definitely going to come down to how they stick the landing. I agree
Yeah.
completely. Like if the ending to the show sucks or is mediocre, then you're going to look back and go, I really wish I had invested all that time. But the Sword logo appears multiple times throughout it, which is really, an interesting. There are little hints here and there that I think once it's all done, once you go back and watch it, it'll be these early episodes will feel a lot more important than maybe they do on their standalone before you know the whole story.
As the
Yeah.
show progresses, yeah.
And there's also the element too, like, and this is something I was really worried about again when I heard the premise of it, was these shows and the comedy is very specific and unique to the time period that they were from. Like if you never
yeah.
watched The Honeymooners, or if you never like watched I Love Lucy, like actually watched it, like you can know what it is and have seen clips and stuff and be like, haha, yeah, it was a funny show. But if you never actually watched it and don't have an I was going to say appreciation, but you can appreciate it without having watched it. If you don't have a
Familiarity with it.
in familiar, yeah, an investment. If you don't have a personal attachment to that era of television or those shows specifically, then they're not going to be like, I could watch both these episodes and you could remove, I'm like going the opposite way from you. You could remove all the MCU stuff and I would still find them humorous and funny. I'd be like, yeah, that was an entertaining show. It gives me that feeling of I Love Lucy, or it gave me the feeling of Bewitched, which I watched a ton of.
Yeah,
Bewitched,
I did too.
and
I liked it.
and I
like, I
Dream of
thought it was
Jeannie.
good.
Nick at
Just,
Night.
I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was entertaining as it. I thought it was good by itself. Like just a sitcom thing, I
Yeah.
thought it was fine. I just didn't think it was anything like that blew me away. Like, you know how the
Nothing to write home
MCU
about.
yeah, like, the MCU and what they've been able to do in, like, the comic book genre, for instance, like, that can blow you away. Like, which is how good the movies can be. Like, Winter Soldier, for instance, it's, like, just a movie that is
Winter
just completely
Soldier.
exceeds the genre of being a superhero or comic book movie. It's this political thriller, the spy movie, this it's just a good movie. And, like, when
Mhm.
you draw that comparison to this, it's not some groundbreaking sitcom thing. It's just, mediocre. Like, I'm not using mediocre, and people always think mediocre is a bad term. It's not. It means it's average. Like, it's not great. It's not bad. It's just mediocre.
In the middle,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
See,
that's you know what I mean?
I thought it was a very good, and that's where we have a different opinion. I thought it was a very good 50s style sitcom. Now, is it a good sitcom compared to Friends? Does it have the modern references that what's the big one? Modern Family maybe for our era has? No, but or Office,
Yeah.
it doesn't
It's
have
a
those
tall
references.
ask too, in
But it
all
had
honesty.
but it
That's a
had
big
other
ask.
stuff that was absolutely hilarious to me. My God, the toaster commercial that was in
Yeah.
it,
That was
I
good.
was laughing out loud at that whole thing. Does your man hate it when you burn his toast or whatever
Yeah.
the line
That
was? I
was
mean,
good.
just absolutely like the played off the old tropes of the woman stays at home and
Yeah.
cooks and like and
She's in the
Yeah.
having a whole
kitchen, yeah.
commercial.
Well,
Yeah,
even
it
the
just
the magazine that Catherine Hahn's character had, just like how to please your
Your
or whatever the hell it
How to
was.
please your
Yeah,
exactly.
good
husband,
stuff.
And
yeah.
like how do you seduce him and stuff and just
Yeah.
all the like little jokes and the way I mean, I find that stuff just I was grinning ear to ear. I've watched, like I said, I watched both episodes twice already. I think it's they're knocking it out of the park. And the other thing I'll say about it is, well, I think I've got two more points, but the first one I wanted to make was um this is I think what we're going to get from these Marvel shows. I think, when you look at Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think, that's going to be more in the vein of the typical MCU style movie or the typical what people think of when they think of the MCU. But I think they're going to use these shows to explore different and take some risks, and which I'm glad to see
Oh, yeah, me
because
too. Yeah, 100%.
as much as I love the MCU movies and they have my money until, whenever they want to stop taking it. That I do like the idea that we're going to branch out and explore some different things. So I think we're going to get this sort of like play on the decades of sitcoms with WandaVision, but then I think maybe when She-Hulk comes out, we're going to get the MCU's take on the legal drama format. The Law and Order, the Boston Legal, the typical legal shows. I think She-Hulk might play in that arena some. So we're going to start exploring some of the other genres of television that you don't necessarily have the chance to look at in the big budget superhero movies. So I'm excited for it. I love it.
I will say, just
But
because you mentioned grinning ear to ear, I was grinning ear to ear as soon as I got to hear the Marvel music and the little Marvel splash just from finally getting some MCU content. I
Yeah.
was just like, "Oh, man."
There you go.
Like, it was
that
before it even started, I was just like, "I'm okay, this is good."
I agree. Then that dovetails into my final point, which is we talked about it before, but I really wonder if people's anticipation for more MCU content. I mean, we haven't had anything since Spider-Man. Spider-Man was kind of a wrap up after Endgame. You didn't have all the other characters popping up in Spider-Man Far From Home. It was really a Spider-Man centric show with some Tony Stark influences in there.
Mhm.
But the Endgame, it's been almost 2 years since Endgame came out, and I wonder if people's anticipation to get back in that world and that is kind of coloring this. This is our first trip back into the MCU, and like you said, we don't get a trip back into the MCU. It's almost like you told me we were going back. It's like your parents tell you they're taking you to Disney World, and they decide to stop at every roadside attraction along the way, and it's like, yeah, but Disney World, we need to get to Disney. I want to go back to the
Yeah.
MCU,
It's a good
and you're not there.
comparison.
And so I wonder if we had gotten Black Widow, if we had gotten Eternals, if we had gotten these other movies that have been delayed, if the anticipation wouldn't be there so much, and people would be a little more willing to take the slow trip to get back to it.
Mhm. It's possible. I know that for me, I wasn't, me wanting more out of it didn't make me dislike it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I liked it overall. Like I just don't want I just want more out of it than the sitcom thing. Like, because I like the sitcom
Show that it's a
thing.
bigger part. There's like a bigger
Yeah,
part of the
I
Marvel
just didn't
universe.
want them to rely on it as a trope that doesn't really
Mhm.
pay off. You know what I mean? I'm totally I like the creativity behind it. I think it was executed well. Like we were saying with all the little nods to this, like the era, the time period, and everything. Like all executed fine. Like it was good. Like I totally liked it. Like I'm definitely looking forward to more, especially now that like at the end of it, it all turned to color. So I'm assuming in episode 3 we get a little bit more of like what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I just feel like if anything, you could have cut the first episode out and you would have been fine with only seeing the second one. Like you get a little
You
bit
don't get
more out
enough.
of it, and
Yeah, that
like
doesn't accomplish much in the first episode, I don't think,
yeah,
other
Well,
than
and
introducing the
but
characters.
but there's elements to the first episode that, again, like I mentioned earlier, I think when you're able, like, I'm going to be really interested to see what you guys' opinion of the show is in total is like once it's all done, because
yeah.
I think there are things about it that are real, like the wife, Hart, their last name was Hart, but the wife that comes over in that whole segment when he starts choking, and
That was
then
weird,
Wanda
dude.
finally,
Yeah.
yeah, right, really weird, but that has to mean something. There has to be more going on. There's a subtexture to that, or
Yeah.
Where
there's
she's
something
just repeating
underneath
herself.
that's
And
going exactly. And Wanda finally looks at Vision, and it's almost like she gives him permission. She says,
She did,
"Vision,
yeah.
help him." And so there's something more. I love that stuff. I love the slow burn
It seemed
in
like
them.
because you remember how I was saying, this is good that you brought this up because this slipped my mind for a minute. But how I was saying that everybody there seemed to be affected by Wanda, right? When Wanda slipped, when she heard the radio, that woman slipped too, and she was like, "Where am I?" Whatever, broke the glass in her hand. It almost seemed like, what's Topher Grace's name in that '70s show? Eric.
Eric Foreman.
Yeah, it looked like Eric Foreman's mom during that dinner scene. Seemed like she wasn't actually affected by Wanda, and she was, like, in on that, like, you know what I mean? Because like, the dude was choking, and she just kinda, like, went
It's
with
like,
it.
stop it.
Yeah, she
Stop
just
it.
kinda, like, went with it. It wasn't the same kinda thing that when Wanda because Wanda didn't slip there, but, like, I don't know,
But
like
Wanda got flustered by all the questions. Wanda and Vision didn't have answers to their questions about where they were from, when they were, and they were Wanda and Vision were clearly being rattled by those questions, and then all of a sudden he starts choking,
And it just cuts
and
it
so
off.
yeah, it's like the trauma or the
but then
her being
they saw Vision be Vision, and they didn't care. That's why I think, like, it
They
almost
didn't
seemed
really
like
see that,
it
though.
almost seemed
He was down under the table. It's a sleight of hand thing, and like
you could say that maybe they didn't see it, but I'm going from the aspect that maybe, like, Eric Foreman's mom is a part of SWORD and knows that it's Wanda Maximoff and Vision.
like she's in the system of whatever they're
Yeah.
doing. Or,
But I mean, Vision, technically speaking, is dead right now too. So like,
Sure.
how did Vision save somebody? If these people are real, like, how would he even have done it? Like, you know what I mean? That's the other thing that's kind of confusing because it seems like they're setting it up to where Wanda is affecting these like actual human beings around them.
yeah,
And like not so I mean, I guess theoretically speaking, Wanda could have easily just poofed it out of her, so she might be projecting Vision, who would have the powers of Vision because it's Wanda.
yeah.
So I mean, maybe that's possible. Like, you know what I mean? Like Wanda or like Vision is like could be a physical construct of Vision that is being projected by Wanda.
Yeah, and you've got stuff like the helicopter that's kinda got the Iron Man color scheme to it, but it's also got the sword logo on it that shows
And it
up.
was in
It's the
color.
only thing that's in color. I mean, that has to mean something too, but we're just not gonna know how all these pieces they're leaving a trail of puzzle pieces, and unfortunately, I don't know that they're puzzle pieces that we can put together, but I think
Yet,
they might
yeah.
have some real significance once it's all said and done. But I was worried all along, especially when I heard the premise. I think I may have said it on the show. I may have
Mhm.
just said to somebody else. But when I heard the first episode, it turns out the first two. But when I heard the first episode was entirely black and white, I went, "Oh God!" I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, are kids these days, are young people these
The
days
Zoomers.
going to are the
Zoomers.
Zoomers? Are they gonna sit down and watch? Everybody, all the young kids that went and saw Endgame and saw Cap running around swinging Mjolnir, are they gonna be like black and white? All right, yeah, I'm gonna sit here for a half hour, or are they just gonna be like, yeah, I'm
Well, not
out?
to mention just the
So
overall sitcom laugh track slapstickiness of the
Sure.
50s and 60s sitcom. I don't think that's something Zoomers really know anything about. Kinda
No.
like you were saying before, like, if you have, like, that, familiarity or some investment into those old shows like Honeymooners and whatnot, you could watch this and feel right at home. But, the younger generation, like, it has more than likely never seen or heard of that stuff, because that's just
Yeah.
kinda how the world works nowadays. Like, there's just so much stuff out there that, like, the younger kids, they just don't even know this stuff even existed. Like, they didn't know what a floppy disk is, they don't know what a CD is. Like, these people
Yeah.
actually exist
We were
and can
born in a
drive
strange
cars right
time.
now. And we were right in the sweet
Yep.
spot.
Yeah, really we
Like,
were.
we got a mix of it all. But, like, yeah, there's a lot of people now that's, like, younger than us, who I could totally see watching this and having a negative outcome to it, because
They just don't understand.
exactly, they don't get the joke. Kinda like we were saying about little Timmy watching Deadpool. Like, the jokes are just gonna go right over his head. He's just there for the action, and for this, I think the whole concept of it could very easily fall on deaf ears and go over its head. Like, they're just like, "What's," like, they don't even know what's going on. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you're not given any information as to the why you're seeing it in this fashion. So I could totally see some people, like, not liking it. Like, I don't know, I haven't gone on my way to look and see, like, what the consensus is kinda critically and, like, from, like, a, I don't know, like, a user standpoint, um, since it aired. I just know I remember the pre ones, like, the pre-critic ones that came out, prior to the show's release were all positive. I haven't gone back to actually see what the consensus is now among the audience and critics. So, like, it'd be interesting to see it going forward, what people kind of think about it. I don't know, like, 'cause I liked it. I just felt
Yeah.
like I just wish we woulda got a little bit more after an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's about it. Like,
Yeah,
that's the
they
only kind of thing I have with it, is just an hour went by and you don't have any answers still.
My question,
Like, that's the only thing I'm like, "Well, just give me something." Like,
who the fuck's the beekeeper? What was that about?
see, I don't know.
Because that was a pretty
Yeah.
climactic, like, "Oh, snap, that's the beekeeper," but it's like,
I'm assuming
And
somebody
then
Wanda's
she
familiar
says
with from the
no, and she
past.
goes back. Yeah,
Yeah.
she says no,
rewinds
and
it
she
and
actually rewinds time and resets everything. That's what that her doing that in that scene is what kind of what makes me think that this is all something that she's constructed, because
Yeah.
she
'cause
has
she has
the
total
ability.
control, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Exactly.
think like I said, I think she's causing everything around her, but I don't think she's
Mhm.
all there stability-wise, mentally stable. You know what I mean? Because she's doing all
Yeah.
this presumably to have Vision back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To try to live a normal, happy life, because, like, she just
Sure.
lost the love of her life, right? So this is
Sure.
all something that she's doing, but this beekeeper fella must be someone from, I would assume, her past.
It's Thanos.
She. Yeah.
He doesn't
She
even
is
know
the
she
well.
is.
Well, the beekeeper, and I don't have any. The only comic book reference that I even like kind of came to mind was sometimes the AIM soldiers.
It kinda
Their
looked like that,
their
yeah.
outfits kind of look like a beekeeper's outfit, so that was the only thing that came to mind with that. And I'll be interested to see if they go that route or it's something else. Like if AIM has, if she's kind of lost touch with reality and they've taken her prisoner or hostage or something, and they're monitoring her. I don't know. It's very, because Sword in the comic books was an extraterrestrial watch group, whereas Shield was like they watched things domestically and internationally on Earth. Sword kind of looked to the skies and said, what threats are out there from space. So I'm not sure how they work that into this story either, because there isn't an extraterrestrial element, at least right now, that we know of. So
Yeah. Another thing, someone's saying that it could be Swarm, which is, I guess, there was a classic episode from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in the '80s that involved a weird creature formed of a body made entirely of bees, and his name was Swarm.
okay. That'd be
Yeah,
an
makes sense.
interesting. That would be a deep cut if they went.
Well, then
Spider-Man
someone's
is
saying
Amazing
it could
Friends.
be like the Grim Reaper, but not like the Grim Reaper, but Eric Williams, the brother of Simon Wonderman Williams.
Hmm.
Someone, I guess, who appeared during the WandaVision trying to live happily ever after in the comics. And then AIM was the only other one. So like AIM, Sword, Swarm, or the Grim Reaper is, I guess, some of the leading prevailing theories for the Beekeeper.
Okay.
I still think it's Thanos. That's
Yeah, I don't know, because that's the only thing that like really popped off at the end. That's just like, well, what's this? Because even the Beekeeper had that sword logo on the back of his outfit.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So.
Okay.
I didn't catch
Which,
that.
and that's the whole thing that's kind of confusing with the sword thing too, though, in all reality, is because like, didn't they introduce sword, or did we just assume it was sword in the end of Captain Marvel with Sam Jackson being up in space? Like, I just kind of assumed that was going to be the start of sword.
That's a good question. I
Like-
don't remember how that ended. I remember him being in space, but I don't remember if they said what organization he was with up there or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think most
They
people
may have
assume
name-dropped
sword,
sword.
but I can't remember if it was like general consensus that, oh, that was sword. It had to be because it's in space and stuff.
Yeah.
Or if it was actually named, I don't really know. But yeah, so like the Beekeeper thing is the only one. I'm not seeing anything with anyone actually having any like confirmation or leaks of it. So yeah, I don't know. They're just saying that it was a sword. So yeah, I mean that's the thing too with Sword's existence in there too. What are they doing? What are they doing watching Wanda? It's not like, it's like you said. I mean, it's like what's extraterrestrial about what's going on? Like, why would they be there doing that? Like, I don't know, man. There's definitely like, at least they're setting up some stuff that's keeping us guessing.
Intrigued, and yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm definitely intrigued to some degree.
They've
just-
got your attention.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. Like I said off the top, they have your attention because it's the MCU anyway.
That's true.
You know what I mean? That's why
That's
I was
true.
just kind of, that was the only thing I was hoping they didn't do, was like, I want them to give you a little bit more and not just rely on everyone's all involvement in the MCU just to keep it going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't want them to just kind of like not waste my time or anything. Just like act as if you have to sell me like this being a show by itself. That's what I want the show to be presented as. You know what I mean? Like Mandalorian did a really great job of that. Like it's not like it just being a Star Wars show that made it a good show. Like they just made a good
It's a good show. Yeah.
Yeah, they just made a good show.
Not a bad
Like,
show.
It's fun to watch. You don't have to like Star Wars to like Mandalorian. Like, kind of like
They
the
definitely-
MCU's done. You're froze again, John.
They definitely did not do the they didn't have the what am I trying to say? They didn't have the hook
Yeah, they
that
did.
was Baby Yoda.
Yeah,
I mean,
drew you right
I'll grant
in.
you that. Like there was nothing that like oh,
Yeah, I mean, with them
that's
doing
a
that,
Baby Yoda. Like
at the end of the first
I gotta
episode,
see-
when you see that,
yeah.
you're just like, well, okay.
You got me.
Yeah, and that's and that's what I've been saying with Wanda. That was a perfect way of like a perfect example, right? Like I didn't get enough answers from it, and there wasn't that one thing. That's why I said the second episode worked better than the first one, because you end on that weird ass beekeeper thing, and then everything turns to color, and then you also had the radio thing happen. So you just got a lot more out of the second episode.
Yeah,
and then
for
you
sure.
also like, it was a more enjoyable episode. Like the whole sitcom premise of it. Like I love magic and magic tricks, and like you got me.
He
Like I'm
does
just
like magic.
I'm sucker for that kind of stuff, the card tricks and things like that. So like I was all on board with watching that whole scene play out and everything. Like I was fine with it. Like the second episode definitely better than the first one, which is, I guess, good. You always want to keep making them be better, so I guess it has that going for it. But it definitely didn't have that thing that just like hooks you in, like you said. Like the only thing that I feel like has anybody's attention is the overarching, well, this is the MCU. So you already have my attention because of the MCU.
I think they know that though.
And that's what I don't want them to do. That's
like, we know you're going to watch this because this is
exactly.
MCU.
I wonder if they would have had like a very identifiable voice. If they would have dropped that Wanda, who's doing this to you line, and had it be a voice that there was no question about who it was, and had it be someone that we know. And like, I'm trying to think of a character like,
dude, it sounded like
if it had been Thor, or
I was going to say
or
Thor.
if it had been Bruce Banner, but it had been if it had been Bruce, if they had said something like Wanda, it's Bruce, who's doing this to you? So that you actually got a name drop to another Avenger doing it, if that would have been enough to give people that hook, like, oh wow, that's okay, so they're bringing Bruce in or something, because it was missing that Baby Yoda, that pull. And so I'm just trying to think of how they could have pulled that, or use the
Right.
word pull for everything, pulled that off. Like, obviously, if they had Robert Downey Jr.'s voice, like, Wanda, it's Tony. Well, what? Then it would have been like, oh shit, like, how in the world is it Tony's dead? That would
Someone
have.
was saying it sounds like Randall Park, the guy, the FBI agent from Ant-Man and the Wasp, the who played Asian Jim in The Office in that one episode. You remember
Oh
that?
yeah.
They said
Did he ever meet Wanda though? Like, there's like
nobody
they
works
call
for
her by
Shield.
name. Sure, but they say Wanda. Like, I feel like that person,
She
whoever
knows
it
her.
ends up being, yeah, exactly, is somebody that she knows, that we know she knows. Like, it'll be somebody that we've seen her interact with before. It'll be another Avenger. It will be like Bruce, or it will be somebody.
Yeah, I don't
I don't
know.
know.
Who knows, man? Who knows? I don't know. This article seeming to suggest that it was him.
Hmm.
Guess we'll find out.
Like this fella here.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He played Kim Jong Un too, didn't
Yeah,
he?
he did in the interview. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm definitely curious to see what the hell's going on, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and we've got what, next week will be 70s, 80s, 90s. So I mean, I think we've got quite a few episodes. But we talked about how there are 9 episodes. We only have 7 decades worth to get through. So I feel like the last 2 episodes will be very heavy modern day. What's the status of the MCU right now?
So how much do you think this is actually going to lead its way into, after seeing the first 2 episodes, did it give a clear indication of how you think this will actually lead into, like, Doctor Strange, or just like, because to me it almost just seems like even more distant at this point. Like, it seems like more of its own thing than being intertwined with anything. Because I mean, a really easy person to have on that radio would have been Stephen Strange,
That's true.
Sure.
Yeah.
but didn't seem that it was Cucumber Man. Like, didn't sound
Well,
like
and
Benadryl
they'd
Cumberbatch.
have to, I think the voice was also distorted. The radio
Mhm.
was very distorted too. So I don't even think, if it was somebody, anybody would really be able to tell exactly, unless Marvel releases who it is, or like gives a cast credit for it. Um, but I think this could be, I hate to speculate in my own head, because the story I'm building in my own head could end up being like better. I'm hoping
Yeah.
that's not the case, but I think it's entirely possible that Wanda is doing this, and whoever is searching for her, if it is Stephen Strange, maybe, when they find her and they pull her out of this, that is what breaks the multiverse open, and that's why it leads into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Is that Wanda, through her encounters with whatever's going on now, somehow breaks reality, and so that leads into Doctor Strange. That's my best guess at this point about how they're going to tie these things together.
Right. That's where I'm at with it. That's what that's kind of assumed. It's just mainly because what we know about Wanda, House of M, all that stuff. Just figured
Sure.
she's just gonna F with reality in some way, that Stephen Strange is like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
like you gotta stop. I'm like, so I don't know. We'll just have to see. I don't think it gave any clear indication of how it would tie into it, though. Really, 'cause like I said, it didn't really give us anything. And that'd be my biggest gripe about the show overall, is that, like, you're just still left with too many questions, I feel like, after an hour.
Yeah.
Like, that's my only complaint. Like, it's just, I would just want a little bit more from an hour's worth of time. Like, not, here's one scene for 5 seconds of the same sword logo just on somebody else this time.
Yeah.
That's all you get,
Mhm.
right? Or it's on another object. And that's like, because that's really, if you want to really break it down, the only thing we got at all was sword.
Mhm.
You got sword at the end of the first one, sword on the helicopter, sword on the, well, you got the radio thing, and I guess that's its own thing, but you still no answer to anything. It's just another question. But then, I mean, and then the sword logo on the beekeeper. So it's like, we just get sword, and then the, like,
Sword.
yeah, just sword and questions. That's all we got, like, out of it. So I'm hoping that's all I want more is just a little bit more of an inkling of just like, well, what's actually going on? Like, quit making me just because it's like you said, if the longer that we as anybody would really do this with any sort of, you know, property like this, the longer you're in your head about it, the more of a chance you have to be disappointed.
Yeah, because you're setting
Because
up.
you're setting up the story in your head now. And if you like it, then like when that doesn't happen, you're disappointed.
You're going to be upset. Yeah.
And like that's how everybody like that's why I try to not like have preconceived notions when I go see a movie or something because like I don't want to fall into such a simple little trap of like, oh, that's not what I wanted to happen, so I didn't like it. You know what I mean? Like that's because I want to accept it for what it is and then judge it accordingly. But when you have these kind of things drag out too long, it's almost inevitable to start. You start to form your own, you know, conclusions because the show's asking you to in a lot of ways. So, which is, I bet that's why a lot of people, despite Lost having such a bad ending altogether, I bet it didn't help that like for years you go on not really wondering or knowing what the hell's going on with Lost, and then when you finally realize what it is, it's like, what? Like, what? That's it? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I hope they don't drag it out too long. Mainly just for kind of that reason. So, you guys got anything else you want to add to it?
I think we covered it.
All right,
I
man.
loved it.
No, I liked it overall. I just want a little bit more answers from it more than anything. That's
Sure.
why I wanted to clear it up off the top. Like, I liked the show. I don't think it was the best sitcom ever, and I don't think we got enough other stuff to justify an hour of sitcom.
I don't want it to
That's
be
it.
over. I don't want to rush to the end, but I'm very eager to hear. I'm very eager to hear everybody's opinions and thoughts once it's all said and done.
Yeah,
How
I'm totally
it plays as an entire saga or an entire story.
Yeah, I think the way they're setting it up, like you said, is going to really, really live and die by the execution and landing. Like, however they land this thing, it's going to be, you know, was all the waiting worth it, and all the like misdirects and question marks. Like, it's got to have a good payoff. I mean, it's obviously a little too early to tell, but and maybe I don't know. Like, I think it was a good choice for them to release both of these episodes. Not seeing the rest of the show, at least, I think it seems like a good thing that they dropped both of these since the next one's going into color and going into a little bit more modern time.
Yeah.
My guess is that we're going to get more information from episode 3.
I hope so.
So I think it was a good idea for them to drop the first 2 so that you're not waiting 3 weeks to get that information. Like waiting 1 week to get that information is a little bit better for people than I don't know. I could see a lot of people because kind of like you were saying, not really liking the show because they're not familiar with the 50 sitcoms kind of thing. If they had to go through 2 weeks of it, would they want to come back for week 3? Like, you know, I could see a lot of people if they just were completely turned off by it, maybe they would just tune out and not even come back. So I don't know.
I just real quick, I don't think we're going to get any answers next week. I think it's going to be. I think we're going to get little snippets like we did in these 2. You might get instead of 5 seconds of information or teases, you might get a minute's worth next episode, but you're not going to get any solid concrete answers until maybe episode 7 at the earliest.
I don't know about that far away. I don't think we'll have answers next week. I don't know if I phrased it that way, but I'm just mean more information. Because right now we haven't gotten any information. It's just been sword logos and a voice. All questions. There hasn't been anything concrete as far as like information. Like we don't even know where Wanda's at. We don't know what time it is. We don't know what part of like what month it is. We're going to get some sort of information like that, I think.
I think you'll slowly get those bits of information.
Yeah, and that's why I think we're finally going to get something, just something to kind of let you, like, just understand more of what's going on. Still in your head, still not giving you, like, well, this is clearly what's happening. Thanos went and got the stones, and, like, then this, like, that's not what's going to happen. Like, it's just going to be like, oh, something that makes you go, oh, okay. Maybe something that'll let you connect back and, like, see, like, maybe that's why the sword thing was there. I don't know. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm looking forward to it, though. I'm totally looking forward to it. I'm glad they're keeping you guessing to some degree. So, but with that down, guys, that is going to do it for us today. Let us know what you guys think of WandaVision's first 2 episodes down in the comment section below. Are you excited for episode 3? Are you just kind of turned off with the whole thing? You're not digging the sitcom thing? Are you kind of like me to where you liked it and appreciate it, but just wish you would have got a little bit more information out of it? I don't want the whole thing spoiled by any means. I don't want to just know what the hell's going on. I just feel like after an hour's worth of content, I should have more than questions at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Because you got to think, if this was a feature film, we'd have like 30 minutes left. I don't think there's enough there to unpack. You know what I mean? I just don't think we've gotten enough information. But whatever you think, let us know down in the comment section below. But with that down, Rik, where can everybody find you online, good sir?
Right down here. Follow me on Instagram, Sir Rick Metz.
All right, good deal. John, where can everybody find you, good sir?
You guys can find me over at my bright, shiny new social media, Nightwing _ K. Sorry, Nightwing _ K.
Did you get banned like some
Facebook
other people?
prison?
I did. I was doing too much tweeting and
too
so I
much
got
fear
banned.
mongering, huh?
Yeah.
Fear mongering.
Fake
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
But no, you can, and I actually expanded my social media footprint, so you can find me at Nightwing _ K on both Twitter and Instagram now.
All right, good deal. Good deal. And you can follow me just simply there at Sir Rob Bifo. Stay tuned for more. We got some more unboxings coming your way, Hot Toys related. We got some unboxings lightsaber related too. So we got some, I just got news. I checked my tracking. I'm going to have something here later this week. So expect a video or 2 or 3, something, depending on what I do with it, within the next week or so. We're going to have some more stuff coming out for that. Don't forget, guys, you can always submit topics and questions to the show by emailing us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's honestanduneducated@gmail.com. With that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Drop a like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Look out for live streams every Friday and whatnot. But that's it. Until next time, take care.